Chapter 542. For example, in the main body of the throne of sin. The monster king could not see through the true realm of the throne of sin. He could only wait for the throne of sin to appear. If the throne of sin did not want to, not to mention Feng Yu, even the monsters could not. And at this moment, Feng Yu was using this move. With the effect of the spirit congealing pill, it was easy for Feng Yu to hide his sea of qi. Even an expert of the same realm might not be able to see through Feng Yu's true strength. At first glance, it was only the effect of the spirit congealing pill. However, for He Cheng, he naturally could not see so much. He could only naively think that Feng Yu was still the same Feng Yu, but a 9-star martial spirit realm. This realm, compared to the students of the 4 great academies who participated in the 100-man battle, or the disciples of the devil race, was quite high. But for a devil son like He Cheng, it was not high. After all, in the same realm, the rogue cultivation method they cultivated could be said to be invincible. What's more, He Cheng cultivated the reincarnation devil scripture, which made many people suffer. Prodigies of the 4 great academies of the human race. Go to hell. He Cheng snorted coldly, and the devil chi on his body boiled. He had already used this move when he entered the immortal demon grotto. The students of the 4 great academies of the human race were basically killed by him. He laughed evilly, as if he had already thought of Feng Yu's end. Feng Yu was no longer stunned and directly made his move. The 3rd move of the sky will swimming dragon. 1,000-year pilgrimage. Hundreds of fist shadows condensed, converging into a dense wall of qi. The moment the wall of qi condensed, the surrounding heaven and earth suddenly trembled. There were only 3 moves of the sky will swimming dragon, but the 3 moves were closely related. The first move was completely to pave the way for the birth of the second move. And the second move was completely to pave the way for the 3rd move of the sky will swimming dragon. When hundreds of densely packed fist shadows converged into a single fist shadow, the wall of qi directly appeared. In the next second, the wall of qi directly shattered, turning into a dragon-shaped shadow. The dragon-shaped shadow and the dragon fist merged together and finally merged into one. Roar! The dragon shadow roared and soared into the sky. A moment later, the sky turned dark. I couldn't tell, but he's pretty strong. He Cheng, who was standing in the distance, looked on coldly. In the end, he sneered. The demonic qi around him instantly surged and condensed out of thin air. Demonic qi was so dense that it actually enveloped the entire area. Roar! A moment later, the giant dragon descended from the sky. Accompanied by a strong pressure, it rushed directly into the dense black devil qi. Bang, 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 a series of colossal statues that seemed to be breaking through the heavens appeared. Dazzling golden light burst out from Dragon Shadow's body. Wherever the golden light passed, the demonic creatures that were shrouded in black aura were blown away. They actually showed signs of retreating. He Cheng frowned. He was a little surprised to see the golden dragon wreaking havoc in the black gas. The power of this giant dragon seemed to be quite strong. The golden dragon didn't stop for a moment. After dispersing the last of the black fog, it turned its huge body and charged directly at He Cheng. Reincarnation demonic rune. After seeing the power of the giant dragon with his own eyes, He Cheng no longer dared to slack off. A monstrous aura burst out from his body and condensed into a black fog vortex. In the vortex, waves of turbulent aura came out. Feng Yu frowned. He was very familiar with the aura of this vortex. There was a power similar to the distortion of space. Roar! As expected, when the giant dragon rushed straight into the vortex, the golden light on the giant dragon's body had completely disappeared. In that bottomless black vortex, the giant dragon's figure could no longer be found. Then, there was a distortion in the vortex and a huge amount of energy kept roaring. A moment later, the vortex returned to calm. He Cheng's whole body shook slightly, and his eyes were full of hostility. I'll let you have a taste of being devoured by your own ability," he sneered. In the next second, the vortex in his hand changed continuously. After a roar, the space in the vortex became extremely distorted again. It seemed that something was about to break through the air. Roar! As expected, after the vortex changed, an ear-piercing dragon roar sounded. In the next second, a black dragon with a pitch-black body surged out. The moment it rushed out of the vortex, it was like a sharp blade unsheathed from its scabbard, and pounced at Feng Yu. Looking at its appearance, it was somewhat similar to the black dragon. However, even the black dragon was not his match. Not to mention this black dragon figure, he did not know what kind of power was in the vortex that could directly turn the giant dragon black and use it for his own use. However, Feng Yu knew that this giant dragon's power did not weaken. On the contrary, it increased after being turned black. That was a pervert. If he cultivated this ability, wouldn't he be able to sit back and relax in the future? As long as he did not encounter a situation where his cultivation level was higher, he would be able to devour and use all the abilities of the same cultivation level. In this way, even if He Qing did not cultivate, he could easily obtain hundreds of abilities. As long as his opponent used it, it would be directly converted. The stronger the ability, the more violent the energy after conversion. Feng Yu's giant dragon was like this. And most people would not have guessed that they would actually lose to their own ability. Killing the mind. What a pity, this giant dragon is quite strong. He Qing curled his lips and stood at the side with a cold smile, as if the outcome was already decided. 8 Desolate Mystic Realm. However, before he could be happy, he heard a cold voice by his ear. Immediately after, he saw that not far away, Feng Yu actually condensed a vortex similar to the one he had condensed previously in front of him. However, Feng Yu's vortex was obviously stronger than his. Vaguely, it seemed to have the power to devour everything. You like to devour? Then let's see who can devour more. Feng Yu sneered, and the vortex in his hand suddenly became stronger. The huge vortex's power directly swallowed the flying black dragon completely. Moreover, it was silent and there was no movement at all. He Qing only reacted when Feng Yu kept the vortex in his hand. How is this possible? You are a student of the 4 great academies. How could you have the forbidden ability of the demon race? Impossible. He Qing was on the verge of breaking down and roared angrily. The reincarnation demonic language was the forbidden ability of the demon race. Other than He Qing, who cultivated it by chance, even the confinement demon emperor did not know the cultivation method of this ability. How could a student of the 4 great academies of the human race know it? He was a little shocked and looked at Feng Yu in disbelief. Bah! Unexpectedly, Feng Yu directly spat out a mouthful of blood. Who told you that this is the reincarnation demonic language? I really don't want to study such a despicable method. What is this? Chapter 543. Feng Yu said indifferently. Although he looked calm on the surface, he was secretly delighted. Looking at He Qing's cold face, Suemo felt a little happy. However, even though Feng Yu said that, he wasn't lying. It was indeed not the so-called reincarnation demonic text. It was an item rewarded by the system for advancing to the Martial King realm. The second forbidden skill of the Void Emperor Codex. 8 Barren Secret Land. Feng Yu had already taken a look at the true meaning of the 8 Barren Secret Land. It was a skill similar to an independent space treasure. What was different from the spatial treasures was that this was a cultivation method. Moreover, compared to the control treasure, this skill was more convenient to use. The space inside the 8 Barren Secret Land was not the space inside the treasure. To be more precise, it was a real space that existed. Moreover, this space was independent. There was no way to enter, nor was there any way to exit. Entering or exiting or opening or closing depended entirely on Feng Yu's will. In that space, Feng Yu was a real god who could dominate everything. Without Feng Yu's permission, even those who had also cultivated the same forbidden technique would not be able to enter the palace. Although that was the case, Feng Yu did not have the time to see how big the space inside was and what it looked like. When he was fighting with He Qing and saw him use the reincarnation demonic text, Feng Yu decided to use this forbidden skill on a whim. Firstly, he wanted to see what the 8 Baron secret land was like. Secondly, he could find out the true strength of the 8 Baron secret land. The effect was obvious. However, when he used it, it was too similar to He Qing's reincarnation demonic text. That was why He Qing had mistaken it for the same skill. Interesting. He Qing frowned and looked at Feng Yu strangely. Based on the move just now, He Qing had seen Feng Yu's strength. Very strong. He just noticed that Feng Yu seemed to be hiding his cultivation level. It was not all of his strength. I have no intention to be your enemy. Why don't we let it go today? After thinking about it, He Qing thought of a compromise. The reason he had come to the Immortal Demon Grotto was actually for the Sin Throne. Now, they hadn't even seen the shadow of the Sin Throne before Feng Yu destroyed it. It wasn't worth it. He didn't want to fail miserably at such an easy task. That won't do. Unexpectedly, Feng Yu directly shook his head. What responded to him was the tiger spring that was condensed once again. This time, Hu Quan's power was even stronger. He Qing was a little angry. He didn't expect Feng Yu to be so unforgiving. He felt some regret in his heart. He should not have provoked such a great Buddha. Come to think of it, the heaven-confining demon emperor didn't tell them that there would be such a powerful being here. Boom, boom, boom. While he was confused, Feng Yu had already made his move. In the time it takes for a spark to fly off a flint, the berserk Hu Quan had already arrived in front of him. At this time, it was too late to dodge. He Qing's face darkened, and the demonic aura around him instantly appeared. Bang! However, he was still a step too late. When the demonic aura that filled the sky had just risen, the Hu Quan already broke through the black fog. After a loud noise, He Qing's entire person flew out backward. Even if the demonic aura already resisted much of Feng Yu's Tiger Fist's power, the remaining power of Hu Quan still blasted He Qing's entire person flying. Under such a great disparity in power, He Qing did not have any chance to escape. Bang! After falling heavily to the ground, He Qing's aura already weakened. Not bad, to actually be able to block one of my punches. Feng Yu nodded his head. This fiend race's hidden prodigy of heaven, Fiend's son, was nothing more than this. Bang! Giant Tiger Fist bombarded down once more. He Qing already completely stopped breathing. What's the situation? Feng Yu, just as Feng Yu pulled back his hand, Bing Yuxia and the other two had already caught up. They tailed all the way, originally wanting to find an opportunity to finish off Fiend's son He Qing. But they did not expect that when they arrived, He Qing already stopped breathing. This guy's reincarnation Fiend rune was famous for being abnormal. Even if Bing Yuxia and Bing Yuxia teamed up, they still did not have a 100% chance. They did not expect Feng Yu to easily take him down by himself. How did you guys get in? Feng Yu was somewhat puzzled. Logically speaking, the secret of the Immortal Demon Grotto should only be known by the Fiend race. He really could not figure out how Bing Yuxia and Bing Yuxia learned about it. This is no longer a secret. Bing Yuxia curled her lips and said. Hearing her say this, Feng Yu suddenly remembered that he had already stayed in the ruins for more than half a month. He did not know what was the situation in the outside world. Right, why are you here? Bing Yuxia turned to look at Feng Yu and asked. The last time they saw each other was when they entered the Severed World. At that time, Feng Yu and Qin Feng attacked, and in the end, Feng Yu escaped. After leaving, she had not seen Feng Yu for a long time. Of course I'm here to find the Fiend race. After thinking about it, Fang Yu did not tell the truth, nor did he mention the Sin Throne. If others knew that he had obtained the Sin Throne, it would definitely cause an uproar. At that time, the 100-person battle might change the atmosphere. Bing Yuxia frowned, but did not find anything wrong. Let's go, there's no point in staying here. Fang Yu shook his head and walked out of the Immortal Demon Grotto. Wait. Bing Yuxia hastily tried to stop him. Haven't you heard of the opportunity in the Immortal Demon Grotto? Bing Yuxia looked at Fang Yu and asked. What opportunity? It's just a trick of the fiend race to deceive people. Fang Yu shook his head and said, It's all a trick of the fiend race. They are unable to carry out a massacre in the outside severed world. They deliberately released this news to let the students of the 4 great academies come in and catch them all in one fell swoop. These words were said very naturally. Bing Yuxia listened for a long time, but did not seem to find anything wrong. The fiend race is really despicable. Bing Yuxia coldly snorted and no longer suspected anything. After thinking about it, she followed Fang Yu back the way they came. Along the way, Bing Yuxia naturally noticed the corpses of the fiend race disciples. Frowning, she looked at Fang Yu and said, What's up with these corpses? You didn't do it, right? Looking at the corpses all over the ground, Bing Yuxia was already used to it. But along the way, she saw many corpses of the fiend race disciples. These corpses looked very miserable. Moreover, why did it seem like they had been plundered? The more she thought about it, the more puzzled she became. She could only look at Fang Yu, hoping that he would know the answer. After all, he was the first student of the 4 great academies to come in. It was done by the creatures here. Fang Yu shook his head and directly denied it. He knew that he could not reveal his strength at this time. No wonder, Bing Yuxia nodded. Fang Yu's words were impeccable, so she had nothing to doubt. Chapter 544. Inside the Immortal Demon Grotto, danger lurked everywhere. The creatures here were very powerful, and Bing Yuxia had seen it all along the way. If it was done by the local creatures, then it would be very easy to explain. A few days later, the entrance to the Immortal Demon Grotto began to tremble slightly, as if it was unstable and could collapse at any time. Fortunately, Fang Yu and the others had already arrived at the entrance. When they came out again, the 3 of them couldn't help but cry out in surprise. This is... When the 3 of them came out of the Immortal Demon Grotto, the scene before them had completely changed. This was no longer the dense forest they had entered from. This was a valley. In the valley, not a single blade of grass grew. It was a desolate scene. The spatial node of the Immortal Demon Grotto was unstable, and the entrance and exit could change at any time. This was something Fang Yu knew in his heart. However, seeing this scene with his own eyes, he couldn't help but be surprised. Looking at the indication on the wristband, this should be the northern part of the Lost World. There wasn't anyone here, and it seemed that no one had set foot in this place. From Bing Yuxia, Fang Yu learned about the situation outside. Currently, the 4 great academies of the human race were divided into several camps. The first camp was to join hands to deal with the demon race. The second camp was to fight on their own. The third camp was more harmonious. They basically avoided all the demon race and searched around the lost world alone. After all, this battle of 100 people was not just a simple massacre. There were many opportunities in this severed world, and there were innumerable spirit pills and miraculous medicines. If he could find an opportunity in this lost world and bring it out, he would definitely obtain a lot of benefit. For example, there was a student of the human race's Vermilion Bird Academy who found a profound underworld ring in a lake in the north. Relying on the innate cold chi in the profound underworld ring, his strength directly broke through 3 realms. There was also a disciple of the demon race who accidentally found a chess piece in a dense forest. Inside the chess piece, he comprehended the mysteries of heaven and earth. Since then, not only did his strength increase by 2 realms, he even directly reached the peak of the 9-star martial spirit realm. He could even break through to the martial king realm at any time. This way, it made this 100-people battle very interesting. As soon as he stepped out of the valley, the sky darkened. Feng Yu was very clear about the climate here. It could be said that it was capricious. Not long ago, the sun was shining brightly, but in the next second it was pitch black. The violent wind and waves stirred up waves of sand that danced in the air. Visibility became very low. There was a faint earthy smell in the air. He couldn't tell what this earthy smell was. They continued to head north. If he guessed correctly, most of the students of the 4 human academies were gathered there. That was because he had heard that some sort of opportunity had been discovered there. The further north they went, the less peaceful the road became. People from the Magical Beast clan appeared out of nowhere and sealed off this space. Feng Yu and the others easily broke through the blockade. However, some students were not so lucky. They stopped outside and did not move forward. Feng Yu easily reached the center of the north and looked at his bracelet. Quite a few human students had already gathered on the platform. Of course, there was no lack of demons. However, these people were strangely peaceful and didn't have any intention of fighting. Most of these students who could enter the depths of the north were powerful people. For example, the student who obtained the opportunity in the lake and the demon who had the chess piece. At this time, they were in groups of 3 to 5 and gathered together. Although they did not make a move, the atmosphere was somewhat tense. Most of them were on guard against each other. No one made a move rashly, and no one dared to let down their guard. These people, whether it was the students of the 4 human academies or the disciples of the demon race, had all stopped here at this time and did not move forward. There seemed to be something blocking their path. Feng Yu was curious and followed their gazes to look into the distance. He saw a narrow intersection appear in front of him. On both sides of the intersection, 2 statues appeared impressively. Under the statues there was a staircase, and to enter the intersection, one had to step on the stairs and pass through the statues. At first glance it did not seem difficult, a flat expanse of land. But Feng Yu took a look at the statues and knew the reason. This statue was fierce and fiendish. He could not tell what kind of animal it was, but judging from its appearance, it should be a native creature of this exiled place. It glared angrily, as if warning the people in front of it that no one could go over. The reality was exactly as Feng Yu had guessed in his heart. "I don't believe it, I must go over." A disciple of the demon race ignored the obstruction of his companions and waved his hands, directly becoming the first bird to stand out. He strode forward and directly stepped on the stairs. The first step, nothing happened. The second step, still safe and sound. On the third step, there was still nothing unusual. The fourth step. Bang! Just as this guy's left foot stepped on the fourth step, a loud sound suddenly came out. In the next second, an extremely violent force tore through the air. It was a force of will, and the source was unknown. However, it was this force that directly swept across the body of the demon race disciple. It was as if a giant whip had lashed out, knocking him to the ground. His entire body flew out directly and smashed heavily on the ground, and he actually stopped breathing. See, what a powerful force! The surrounding onlookers, who were originally carefully sizing up this demon race disciple with a solemn expression, now saw that he had only reached the 5th step and was sent flying to his death. Obviously, they were somewhat in disbelief. That force came and went quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it disappeared. However, the majestic aura he left behind shocked everyone present. Was this the power of a god? *T god. There were also people who did not believe in heresy. With the previous example, they could not resist the temptation of the great opportunity behind them and raised their legs to step on the stone steps again. This time, he directly climbed to the 7th step. Seeing that he was fine, he breathed a sigh of relief. However, just as he raised his foot and was about to step on the 9th step, Fang Yu furrowed his brows. He could already feel that strange energy. Bang! As expected, that strange force suddenly appeared again and directly overturned this person. After falling to the ground, he also stopped breathing. What's going on? What's going on? Suddenly, the crowd was in an uproar. There was no lack of people who understood arrays among them, but they could not see the clues and the problem. It seemed that, if anyone dared to step on the stone steps, they would end up exactly like those two people. Chapter 545. For a moment, no one dared to continue trying. Those who were originally eager to try were now scared out of their wits. After all, they had never experienced such a strange thing. At this moment, they could only stare. They clearly knew that there was a great opportunity waiting for them after the stone step. Such a tempting opportunity, but they had to go through the dragon's pool and the tiger's den first. This was the furthest distance in the world. It was right in front of their eyes, but there was no way to cross this chasm. Many people had already decided to give up on this opportunity. After all, there were less than 15 steps on this staircase, and it seemed impossible to cross. Those who could come here were basically the top students of the 4 great academies of the human race, or the outstanding disciples of the demon race. But this power was too strong for them to imagine. After a moment, the moment that person fell, the surroundings returned to normal. It was quiet all around. At this moment, almost no one dared to make a sound. Fang Yu stood at the side and felt his scalp go numb. This power was somewhat similar to the strange aura that he had encountered in the immortal demon grotto. That aura was only a warning, and Long Xiantian was severely injured. Obviously, this aura was stronger than the one in the immortal demon grotto. It was more like the power of a guardian. This staircase was like a huge killing machine. Anyone who dared to approach it would be mercilessly devoured. If this continued, it would not be long before the students of the 4 great academies of the human race and the demon race were all devoured. At that time, there would be no need to fight each other. Just this staircase alone would be enough to determine the winner. Unable to see clearly what was going on with this statue, and where the strange power came from, Fang Yu shook his head. He did not want to take the risk. At the same time, the students of the 4 great academies of the human race and the disciples of the demon race, who had originally gathered here, had already developed some thoughts of retreating. Many people were already muttering to themselves. However, they did not plan to leave. Those who stood out would definitely not be the only two. From their size, Fang Yu was able to get a rough idea of what was going on. It turned out that a few days ago, someone had leaked the news that there was a great opportunity here. So everyone gathered here. The first person to arrive was a student from the Azure Dragon Academy. Unfortunately, when he was walking down the stairs, he was suddenly surrounded by a powerful force. Then, he died on the spot. At that time, no one felt that there was anything wrong with it, so there were still many people who came one after another, wanting to pass through the steps and go to the intersection behind. It was a pity that after a fight, the winner, who was full of joy and was about to walk up the stairs, fell down before he could even take a few steps. This matter was heard by many people. Everyone gathered here, intending to find out what the problem was. In this way, there was a rare moment of peace between the two races. Just yesterday, a lucky survivor had found the answer. He was more careful. With every step he took, he used the powerful cultivation technique in his body to protect himself. Even so, when he stepped on the 3rd step and was about to continue, a powerful force suddenly attacked him. This power seemed to carry with it an inexhaustible will. In his mind, there were only a few words: "Those who dare to come will die." He reacted quickly and dodged almost at the same time. However, he still couldn't escape. Some of that strange power still swept across his body. Just a little bit of the aftermath caused him to be seriously injured. A few hours ago, he had died because of his serious injuries. However, everyone still received a piece of information from him. This power was actually targeted at one's cultivation level. Those below the Martial King realm would not be able to pass through. If one was above the Martial King realm, they would be able to pass through easily and would not be attacked by this mysterious power. Of course, if one was not a Martial King and had enough strength, there was still a chance to pass through. However, the people chosen for this 100-person battle were all below the Martial King realm. Therefore, for so many days, no one could pass through here. Forget it, forget it. Don't look for trouble. There might be opportunities elsewhere. There's no need to waste time here. That's right. This place is big. There's no need to hang on to a crooked tree. Let's go, let's go. The group of people said a few words and finally all chose to give up. After all, they could not afford to offend those who could successfully pass through here. At this moment, almost all their energy was on the stone step. No one thought of continuing to fight. Bang, bang, bang. However, there were still those who did not believe in evil and wanted to continue trying. Their cultivation methods were quite strong, and they had stayed in the 9-star martial spirit realm for a long time. Therefore, their strength could be considered very strong. Naturally, they did not want to give up such a great opportunity so easily. They discussed for a while. Finally, they decided to go together. In this way, once that strange power appeared again, they could take care of each other. Perhaps they would be able to pass through by luck? Unfortunately, the idea was beautiful, but the reality was cruel. The three of them had just stepped on the stairs and wanted to quickly pass through. However, before they could reach the 6th floor, they were already sent flying. When the three of them fell to the ground, Fong Yu had already checked their injuries. There was no aura at all. This strange power was truly terrifying. This was also good. It directly cut off everyone's thoughts. After everyone retreated, Fong Yu stood in place. Since there was a great opportunity behind, he naturally wanted to explore it. What's wrong? Don't tell me you want to die too? Bing Yuxia stood to the side and looked at Fong Yu with a strange expression. So many people had already died one by one using various methods. She did not expect Fong Yu to have such a strange idea. Naturally, she did not know that Fong Yu had already reached the Martial King realm. She also did not expect that Fong Yu was already certain of success. Since a Martial King could pass through here, it proved that this power was not invincible. He had the protection of the dragon armor and the physical body of a Martial King. At the very least, he still had the trump card of the Throne of Sin. Even if the Throne of Sin could not withstand it, Fong Yu still had a way to escape. The second forbidden technique of the Void Emperor Codex, 8 Desolate Secret Territory. This was Fong Yu's final trump card, and also his final life-saving method. If the Throne of Sin could not withstand it, he could just jump into the 8 Desolate Secret Territory. Fong Yu was confident that this power would not be able to chase him into the 8 Desolate Secret Territory. Even if it did, the true ruler of that place would be Fong Yu. Since he already had a plan in mind, Fong Yu did not stay any longer. He turned around and looked at Bing Yuxiao with some difficulty. Chapter 546. Bing Yuxiao was still the same as before. She stood in place, sizing up Fong Yu. She wanted to see why Fong Yu was so confident. However, Fong Yu didn't seem to intend to reveal his trump card in front of her. For the time being, Fong Yu did not want too many people to know that he had directly advanced to Martial King. After thinking about it, he finally chose another method. He followed Bing Yuxia and the others and left first. In any case, the great opportunity was here. No one could set foot in this severed world for the time being, so it was already in the bag. It was better to find an opportunity to come back and take it. On the way back, the demonic beast race was still gathering, as if something big had happened. However, Feng Yu was a little puzzled. Their demonic beast race's patriarch had already been buried in the immortal demon cave. Who was commanding these people now? Or rather, what was their purpose in gathering here? If he couldn't figure it out, he wouldn't think about it. This was Feng Yu's habit. When they returned again, the road was not peaceful. The students of the 4 great academies, who were originally peaceful, clashed with the demon race for some reason. Halfway back, they began to fight. There weren't many demon race disciples, and the demon sons were not nearby. Therefore, the battle was somewhat tragic. It was almost a one-sided massacre by the students of the 4 great academies. Along the way, the corpses of many demon race disciples appeared one after another. In terms of numbers, there weren't many ordinary demon race disciples left. Of the 10 demon sons, apart from He Long and He Qing, plus the 2 who were killed by Bing Yuxia and the others, there were 6 left. Among them, there was Zhang Meng, Tian Kuan, Tian Feng, and Qin Feng. Apart from the 3 of them, only the top 3 demon sons had not appeared. Feng Yu felt a little strange. Almost from the moment they entered Party B's lost world. From the beginning to the end, these demon sons had not appeared. They didn't take the initiative to attack like Qin Feng. On the contrary, they directly lay dormant. Up until now, none of them had shown themselves. The more it was like this, the more Feng Yu was worried. Could it be that these fellows were plotting something? Although it seemed like the human race was in the lead, in reality, the 3 devil heirs were extraordinarily powerful and had the ability to turn the tide. I don't know where the remaining devil heirs are hiding. After searching for a long time, he still couldn't find it. Bing Yuxia complained as she walked. Her original plan was to get rid of at least 5 devil heirs, so that she could take revenge and establish her authority in her academy. Unfortunately, she had underestimated his strength. The devil sons were not easy to deal with. Qin Feng was a living example. Apart from that, the other 2 had also taken a lot of effort. The harder it is to find it, the more dangerous it will be. I keep having the feeling that the other devil heirs are plotting something. Feng Yu slowly voiced the doubts in his heart. What was that sound? Just as Feng Yu's voice fell, a scream suddenly came from the valley not far away. This voice sounded familiar. It was a student from the Azure Dragon Academy. Feng Yu was startled, and a bad premonition welled up in his heart. As expected, when Feng Yu and the rest arrived at the valley, the scene in front of them infuriated them. In the valley, the 2 exits were blocked by 2 devil heirs. The remaining devil heirs was surrounded by an incomparably violent energy and was carrying out a one-sided massacre on the students of the 4 academies. Feng Yu recognized this guy. He was the most talented and strongest of the 10 devil heirs, the one ranked first, devil heirs Feng Chang. These 3 guys. They are really plotting something in the dark. Bing Yuxia snorted, and in the next second, a snowstorm drifted out from the sky. In the snowstorm, a bone-chilling coldness shrouded the valley. Feng Chang, who was originally slaughtering in the valley, was stunned for a moment before he reacted. Boom, boom, boom. He instantly turned around, and a demonic shadow bombarded Bing Yuxia. It was as fast as lightning, and there was no way to dodge it. Bang! Bing Yuxia was not a petty person. The long sword in her hand danced, and in the blink of an eye, she dispersed the demonic aura. Not bad. You are quite strong. Feng Chang snorted coldly with a smile on his face. In his eyes, Bing Yuxia was just SOSO. The reason why the 3 of them had been hiding was to wait for this opportunity. The students of the 4 academies gathered together. It was as if this canyon was their burial ground. In just an instant, dozens of students from the 4 academies had already died. One had to admit that Feng Chang was very strong. Hey! Pang Yi exclaimed. It was already too late to stop Bing Yuxia. He did not expect Bing Yuxia to be so impulsive and dare to make a move at this time. The top 3 devil heirs of the devil race were not so easy to deal with. Once a bloody battle broke out, It was obvious that the devil race had a higher chance of winning. Bing Yuxia was naturally aware of this, but she did not want to watch the students of the 4 academies get slaughtered. Today, let's settle this. Fang Chang was still sneering as he looked at Bing Yuxia and Pang Yi, including Fang Yu, who had already concealed his strength. In Fang Chang's eyes, the 3 of them had no intention of dying today. As long as they dealt with the people here, there would be less than 15 people left from the 4 academies. They were confident that they could end this 100-people battle within 3 days. After all, the opportunities in this severed world had already been plundered by them. Except for the immortal demon cave that they had not had time to explore. It was time for this 100-people battle to end. Die. Without needing the other 2 devil heirs to make a move, Fang Chang directly made a move. The entire valley was instantly enveloped by a black shadow. Dense devil chi. Black fog condensed and completely enveloped this side of the world. Then, ghostly shadows superimposed on Fang Chang's hands. This move was a bit similar to the first move of the Heavens Will Swimming Dragon extinction. It could even be said that it was a pirated version of the Heavens Will Swimming Dragon extinction. This was because when the Void Emperor Codex was born, it had also been passed down to the devil race. Because this forbidden technique was incomplete, the descendants of the devil race had modified it a bit from the original foundation. But even so, this move was still incomparably terrifying. Therefore, this cultivation method was also one of the forbidden techniques in the devil race. And Fang Chang had relied on this cultivation method to pass the selection of devil heirs in one fell swoop and ranked first. In the same realm, besides He Cheng, who had luckily escaped after exchanging blows with him, no one else was his match. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of ghostly shadows had already condensed. However, the aura of these ghostly shadows did not seem very strong. And the ghostly shadows were also faintly discernible. Fang Chang suddenly made a move, urging the hundreds of ghostly shadows. The ghostly shadows became more and more excited in this dark room, and waves of ghostly wails and wolf howls reverberated throughout the world. What is this? Pang Yi asked, puzzled. Chapter 547. The ghostly shadows emitted a sky-piercing demonic aura that enveloped the canyon. Above the canyon, demonic aura surged. Bing Yuxia's expression slightly changed. This demon son was indeed not ordinary. To be able to rank first, he was definitely not a good person. Bing Yuxia was already regretting in her heart. She should not have appeared so rashly. However, now that the ghostly shadows had appeared in front of her, she did not hesitate. The snowstorm passed through the layers of demonic aura. Although the snowstorm seemed incomparably powerful in other places, it seemed insignificant in the face of the layers of demonic aura. Whoosh! The power of the snowstorm did not tear the black fog space apart. On the contrary, there was a devouring force in the black fog that swallowed her snowstorm. Bing Yuxia's expression was somewhat unsightly. After the layers of ghostly shadows condensed in the black fog, they did not stay for long and directly attacked Bing Yuxia. Without the snowstorm, Bing Yuxia's strength had decreased by a lot. Pang Ming was anxiously watching from the side. He waved his fists and fist shadows swirled in the air. Boom, boom, boom. The fist shadows sank into the ghostly claw and barely disintegrated Fang Chang's attack. Even so, the remaining devouring force in the black fog still sent Bing Yuxia and Pang Ming flying. The first attack, Fang Chang's casual attack, had already made the two somewhat unable to bear it. Moreover, the canyon's terrain was steep. By relying on the condensation of demonic aura, their strength was increased by 100 times. As such, Bing Yuxia and Pang Ming were naturally not Fang Chang's opponent. Haha! Fang Chang was not surprised that his attack had failed. Looking at his playful expression, Fang Yu clearly knew that he had not used his full strength in this attack. Boom, boom, boom. Sure enough, without a moment's pause, Fong Chang attacked again. A black sword shape suddenly condensed in the black fog. The moment the black sword condensed, the entire black fog space seemed to want to be torn apart and issued a powerful tearing force. "Break for me!" Fong Chang bellowed. The black sword emitted a cold light. Zing zing zing! The sound of the sword was ear-piercing. Even from afar, Fong Yu could already feel the killing intent. "Not good!" Pang Ming shouted and quickly dodged. The qi in his fists suddenly burst out and condensed into a defensive wall of qi. Bing Yuxia's expression was solemn as the power of wind and snow swept over once again. He seemed to want to stop the black sword before it reached him. Whoosh, however, the strength of the two was still somewhat unequal. In this space, there was a barrier set up by Devil Sun Fong Chang. The thick black fog itself had a reinforcing effect. As expected, the black sword qi directly broke through Pang Liang's defense and stabbed towards his face. Bing Yuxia controlled the wind and snow in the sky in an attempt to block it. Unfortunately, her strength seemed to be greatly suppressed in this place. Wang, the sword qi once again pierced through the wall of snow. After piercing through a skeleton, it was still aimed at Pang Liang's face. Pang Jiao's heart was like dead ashes as he stood where he was. He had already closed his eyes, as if he had already thought of his own end and was quietly waiting for his death. Bang! However, when the ice-cold sword qi was less than a centimeter away from his face, he suddenly heard a crisp sound. Set effect! Setting sun, blazing sun. Beside him, Fong Yu directly slashed out with the sword qi in his hand. The moment the black sword qi's cold light reached Pang Liang's face, it was forcefully chopped off. Fong Yu had used all his strength in this move. However, he did not activate the power in his qi. As for the moves of the heavens will wandering dragon, Fong Yu had no intention of testing them. After all, there were so many people here. He still did not want to casually reveal his trump card. However, even so, with the support of the martial king realm, the power of this sword qi was enough to chop off the black sword qi. After a rumble, the black sword qi began to dim, as if it could dissipate at any time. Bang! Finally, the black sword qi seemed to be unable to resist the threat of Fong Yu's move. After a moment, it completely dissipated in the black fog and merged with it. What a powerful sword qi! Fong Yu, Bing Yuxia and Pang Liang, who had just escaped danger, were shocked. Naturally, they were shocked by Fong Yu's strength. The sword qi just now seemed very casual. It was just a casual sword strike, but it had broken Fong Chang's full-powered attack. The shock it brought was self-evident. Moreover, this was the demon race's boundary. The surrounding environment was very advantageous for the demon sons. The students of the 4 great academies were all restricted here. This was also the reason why the 3 of them could easily slaughter the students of the 4 great academies. Otherwise, they would still have the strength to fight. Bing Yuxia looked at Fong Yu in front of her and suddenly felt a little strange. Half a month ago, when she had just entered the exiled grounds, Bing Yuxia had personally witnessed Fong Yu's strength. Against demon son Qin Feng, he did not gain any advantage. Moreover, at that time, his strength did not seem to be as strong as it was now. Could it be that he found some opportunity? Bing Yuxia thought of such a possibility in her heart. Otherwise, Fong Yu would definitely not have advanced so quickly. How is this possible? How could you break my sword qi? Compared to Bing Yuxia and Pang Liang, Demon Son Fong Chang was clearly a little shocked. He naturally did not believe that someone could use their full strength in this valley. However, even if he could not use his full strength, Fong Yu had still broken his sword qi. What if he used his full strength? It was unimaginable. After all, this sword qi was a terrifying existence among the demon race's forbidden technique. Even without the natural support of the valley's terrain and the boundary's support, This move of his was not something any Tom, Dick, or Harry could casually break. The other two demon sons guarding the valley also had a strange look in their eyes. Looking at Feng Yu's aura, it did not seem very strong. Although most of them were peak 9-star martial spirit. In the same realm, unless he had been in this realm for dozens of years, his realm had already stabilized to a certain extent. However, in this 100-man battle, none of the participants were over 18 years old. How could there be someone who had been in the same realm for dozens of years? On the other hand, Feng Chang was sizing up Feng Yu. Suddenly, he thought of something and his expression changed slightly. This guy, could it be that he is hiding his cultivation? A terrifying thought appeared in his mind. Before entering the exiled grounds, no one could surpass the Martial King realm. However, after entering this place, if they encountered some great opportunity, it was not impossible to break through the martial spirit realm in one go. Chapter 548. After all, the rules of this 100-person battle did not state that one could not raise their cultivation in the exiled grounds. Their demon race had a living example. A guy named Lin Feng had accidentally found a chess piece that allowed him to comprehend the power of the sun, moon, and heaven and earth, allowing him to break through several small realms in an instant. Although he had not yet reached the level of a martial king, in terms of strength, he could already compete with a 1-star martial king expert. The moment this thought appeared in his mind, Feng Chang already felt that something was wrong. This was because he had clearly discovered a faintly discernible power around Feng Yu's body. It was this power that was tightly wrapped around Feng Yu, causing Feng Yu's cultivation to be somewhat indistinct. With their cultivation, they could not see through Feng Yu's cultivation. Attack together. The three demon sons looked at each other as if they had seen a tough nut to crack. At this moment they did not dare to be negligent. They directly ignored Bing Yuxia and Pang Ming and charged straight at Feng Yu. "Coming for me? Smart," Feng Yu sneered. His body flickered slightly as he took the lead to leave the valley. After all, this valley was filled with demonic qi and dense black fog. If Feng Yu did not use his trump card, it would be difficult for him to gain any advantage. As long as they left the valley, the three of them would be like chickens and dogs. Seeing this, the three demon sons braced themselves and chased after him. After all, Feng Yu's strength was somewhat terrifying. If they did not take him down now, there would be endless danger in the future. If they wanted to end this 100-person battle, then either Feng Yu died, or the three demon sons of the demon race died. With this thought, the three leaped into the black fog. The black fog quickly moved and firmly chased after Feng Yu. Unfortunately, the three of them were too slow. With the support of the soaring dragon technique, Feng Yu's speed was as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared on a dry riverbed. This place was deserted. This was where the three demon sons of the demon race were buried. "Do you need help?" Bing Yuxia stood in the distance of the valley, watching the silhouettes getting farther and farther away, and asked doubtfully. "With our strength, it's best if we don't go and cause trouble," Pang Yi smiled bitterly. Having just walked on the edge of life and death, he was the person closest to Feng Yu's sword energy. Therefore, he was very clear that Feng Yu was very strong, and he was holding back. Dealing with these three demon race prodigies should not be a problem. Even if he was no match for him, he had seen Feng Yu's ability to escape. It would be very strenuous for these three fiend heirs to keep him here. What's more, Feng Yu definitely still had a trump card. He was just hiding it. If the two of them went now, they would only add to the chaos. Not only would Feng Yu have scruples, but the two of them would also be in danger. Therefore, the best thing to do now was to wait and see. Pang Ming's thoughts were naturally Feng Yu's as well. When he turned around and saw that Bing Yuxia and the other two didn't follow him, he heaved a sigh of relief. Huff, huff, huff. After a long while, Fang Yu was already anxious from waiting. A cloud of black fog slowly appeared behind him. The black fog slowly landed. It was Fang Chong and the other two fiend heirs. The moment they landed, they surrounded Fang Yu tightly. The three of them formed a triangle, blocking all of Fang Yu's escape routes. In this way, Fang Yu had no way to retreat. I didn't expect you to be so good at running. After landing, Fang Chong looked at Fang Yu and snorted coldly. What, are you in such a hurry to die? Fang Yu subconsciously replied. After saying that, he suddenly felt that something was amiss. This wasn't his line. He naturally wouldn't say anything in such a domineering and arrogant tone. Therefore, when this sentence blurted out, he was dumbfounded. It was as if his thoughts were not under his control. What was going on? After a long while, Fang Yu suddenly reacted. In that instant, he had sensed something from the throne of sin. When he said that sentence, the connection was very strong. It was obvious that it was the Sin Throne's thoughts. Hiss, Fang Yu sucked in a cold breath. This wasn't a good thing. He didn't know how the Sin Throne's main body had merged with him, and he didn't know if there would be any side effect. But now, Fang Yu was sure. The Sin Throne was still an independent main body, and it seemed to have its own thoughts. Moreover, this thought seemed to be able to control Fang Yu's main body. He didn't know if this was a good thing or a bad thing, but Fang Yu didn't have the time to think about it. The three fiend heirs' black demonic aura had already surrounded him. This part of the world was also shrouded in a thick black fog. Fang Yu unhurriedly took 2 steps back and began to form a seal. Boom! The three fiend heirs attacked at the same time, and a powerful blast of air suddenly erupted in all directions. The blast of air actually formed piles of bones, like divine soldiers descending from the sky, and suppressed Fang Yu. Sky will dragon extinction. Fang Yu urged the true qi in his body, and tried to communicate with the sea of qi in his energy center. After slightly mobilizing the power in his sea of qi, the second move of Sky will Dragon Extinction was suddenly unleashed. All techniques returned to 1. Layers of fist shadows condensed in the air, and then all the fists returned to 1. The power of one punch could be said to be devastating. Rumble! After a loud noise, the fist shadows surged like a huge wave and directly dispersed the black demonic aura. After dispersing, the fist shadow's power did not decrease and directly blasted the fiend heirs closest to Fang Chong away. The fiend heirs Fang Chong looked at the fist shadows that had already been sent flying away with some surprise. Their eyes were full of shock. Why did this move look so familiar? It seemed to be on par with his demonic aura technique. At first glance, there seemed to be some similarities. However, it was obvious that Fang Yu's move was more terrifying, and its power was also more pure. He was a little shocked, but Fang Yu did not give him a chance to wonder. In the next second, layers of fist shadows came one after another, and bombarded Fang Chang's face. Fang Chong reacted instantly and urged the black fog around him, and in the blink of an eye, hundreds of black fist shadows were condensed. However, he did not know the fist returned to 1 technique, and his control of his power was not very skillful. Boom! With just the power of 1 punch, Fang Yu had already dispersed Fang Chang's layers of black fist shadows. Wherever the fist shadows passed, they swept away everything, not giving Fang Chong any chance at all. Fang Chong used all his strength, and the black fog around him increased greatly. Within the black fog, Fang Yu's terrifying fist shadows were swallowed up. What are you still looking at? Why aren't you attacking? Must you wait until I'm dead before you attack? After a while, Fang Chong appeared from the black fog and roared at the other fiend heirs who were still in a daze. Although they were not on good terms usually, now was not the right time. Chapter 549. There were no outsiders interfering in the devil's territory. It was common for the devil heirs to compete with each other. The devil heirs were also at odds with each other. Usually, they were at odds with each other on the surface. If they were not careful, a huge battle would break out. Even the alliance this time was out of necessity. However, although they were at odds behind their backs, they were now up against people from the 4 great academies of the human race. If they wanted to win, they had to give it their all. That devil heir was easily dealt with by Feng Yu when he was caught off guard. Now, only the 2 of them were left. If they were still suspicious of each other and could not work together, then what was the difference between them and a plate of loose sand? If they let Feng Yu succeed again, then it would be a one-on-one. Then, what was the point of their alliance? This time, they were easily killed in a 3-on-1 chase. If this spread, how could they return to the devil race? Even if they had the face to return, if the heaven-confining devil emperor found out, he would personally kill them. He could not afford to lose this face. What's the hurry? The other devil heir's eyes were solemn, and a cold look gradually appeared in his eyes. The reason why he did not make a move just now was that he had been observing Feng Yu. It was as if he wanted to find some flaw in Feng Yu's moves. Unfortunately, Feng Yu's every move and move complemented each other, and there were almost no flaws. With a cursory glance, it could be considered impeccable, and there was no way to solve it. He was in a daze when he was called by Feng Chang. He was a little unhappy. However, he naturally knew what Feng Chang was worried about. He was no longer in a daze. Since there were no flaws, then he would bite the bullet and attack. Boom, boom, boom. A strange aura erupted from his body, and then, a pitch-black demonic shadow began to slowly condense on his body. At the same time, the surrounding air began to become bloody. A powerful evil aura began to spread as the demonic shadow slowly condensed. The smell of blood became heavier, and the violent aura also increased. Not only that, Feng Yu could clearly feel that the temperature around his body was gradually dropping. It felt like Bingyu was in a snowstorm, a world of ice and snow. Are you crazy? Feng Yu didn't know what was going on, but Feng Chang, who was also a devil son of the devil race, could tell what was going on. Burning my demon blood? Are you trying to kill us all? Feng Chang roared in shock. His face was filled with fear. Even Feng Chang, who had been through hundreds of battles and had grown up in a cruel and terrifying environment, was terrified. Burning demon blood seemed to be very unusual. If we don't get rid of this guy, do you think we can go back alive? He sneered and did not take Feng Chang's words seriously. Feng Yu sighed in his heart as he watched the commotion around him. He had a rough idea of the answer. Burning the demon blood was similar to burning the profound qi. Some of the students of the 4 human academies had burned their essence qi in order to achieve the effect of improving their cultivation level in a short period of time. However, this effect would only last for a short period of time. If it didn't succeed, it would immediately perish. Even if he succeeded, he would consume more than half of his profound qi, and his body would suffer irreversible injuries. Without a few years of cultivation and nourishment from various heavenly treasures, it would be very difficult for him to recover to his peak. That student who had burned his profound qi back then still hadn't recovered to his original state. He was still hesitant to move forward. After all, not everyone could cultivate such an evil technique like Qin Feng, so that the demon blood would boil but not burn. Let's do it. Seeing that the power of burning demon blood had taken effect, Feng Chang also made up his mind and sucked all the demon qi around him into his body. In the next second, he activated the dark and eerie demon qi. An extremely powerful aura whizzed toward Feng Yu. Not only that, but the devil son who was burning his demon blood also kept making hand seals. In an instant, the surrounding area was suddenly shrouded in black qi. More and more power condensed in the black qi. The world became incomparably dark, and the dried-up riverbed was already showing signs of collapsing. Fang Yu couldn't see his surroundings clearly. Surrounded by the black qi, he could only feel the eerie aura sweeping toward him. Whoa! As expected, in the next second, eerie ghostly shadows appeared in the demonic qi. Each of the ghostly shadows bared their teeth and looked fierce. They were filled with a violent aura. The moment they appeared, Fang Yu could hear the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. Accompanied by this sound, a sinister wind also whizzed toward him. The aura contained in this yin qi was very strong. Fang Yu didn't dare to be careless. His dragon armor was already faintly glowing as it started to resist this powerful yin qi. Hiss, hiss, hiss! In just a moment, a ghostly shadow was already in front of Fang Yu. Its slender and sharp ghostly claws directly slashed in front of Fang Yu's eyes. If he wasn't prepared, he would be easily scratched. However, just as he dodged the first ghostly shadow, a black mass of ghostly shadows appeared in front of Fang Yu's eyes one after another. Accompanied by ghostly wails and howls, Fang Yu's eardrums started to hurt. The attacks of these ghostly shadows were very brutal. If it wasn't the throat, it was the head. Almost all of them were vital points. Moreover, accompanied by this black aura, their attack speed was very fast. After dodging one ghostly claw after another, Fang Yu sighed. The benefits brought by burning the demon blood were indeed powerful. If it were an ordinary person, under the attack of so many ghostly shadows, even if they didn't die, they would lose a layer of skin. The ghostly shadow's brutal and unreasonable attack method was also difficult for ordinary people to withstand. Boom, boom, boom! Finally, after dodging the attacks of 4 ghostly claws in front of him, Fang Yu urged the aura of the Sea of Qi in his body and suddenly used the first move of the Sky Will Dragon Absolute Art. Layers of fist shadows condensed. Hundreds of fist shadows formed an invisible thick shield in front of Fang Yu and bombarded the ghostly shadows in midair. This time, the fist shadows not only had the support of the 9 heavens fall, but also the aura of the Sea of Qi. The power could be imagined. Boom, boom, boom! The moment the hundreds of fist shadows made contact with the densely packed ghostly shadows, an extremely violent force was suddenly emitted. Under the confrontation of the two forces, the ghostly shadows directly became violent and began to wave wildly as if they wanted to tear all the fist shadows apart. Unfortunately, their power was still too weak. 1,000 years of pilgrimage. The third move of the Sky Will Dragon Absolute Art had been used. This time, the power was even more violent. Boom! After a loud noise, the densely packed ghostly shadows were directly bombarded and scattered. When the ghostly shadows gradually disappeared, this side of the world gradually became clear. The moment Fang Yu gradually regained his vision, Fang Chong and the remaining devil child, who had already burned their demon blood, were already in front of him. Chapter 550. 2 dots with powerful auras appeared in midair. The 2 dots gradually enlarged in Fang Yu's eyes. However, even though he was far away, Fang Yu could still feel the power of the 2 dots. Boom! As the 2 dots were moving too fast, Fang Yu had already transferred part of his power to the dragon armor while activating his Sea of Qi. Set effect. Setting sun, blazing sun. A streak of sword qi slashed out horizontally. That powerful energy slammed directly onto one of the light spot. Bang! After a loud bang, Fang Chong was blocked in midair by the powerful sword qi. As for the other devil son, he had already gathered a black fog and heavily bombarded Fang Yu's chest. Got him! He exclaimed, as if he had already predicted Fang Yu's fate. He had used all his strength in this attack, and it also contained the power of burning his demonic blood. Even if a martial king came here without any preparation, they would die without a doubt. However, before he could look at Fang Yu's corpse with excitement, a violent, murderous aura appeared in his eyes. A sword qi, accompanied by a powerful force, swept toward him. It was like a long dragon, and the sound it made was like a dragon's roar. In his eyes, the sword chi grew closer and closer, gradually enlarging. "How is this possible?" he roared, and a burst of demonic chi exploded around his body, trying to resist the sword chi. However, the sword chi was too powerful, and it still forced him to take a few steps back. After he forcibly stabilized himself, he saw clearly the guy who had taken his full blow. At this moment, not only was he not affected, he was still standing on the same spot, unharmed. The violent sword chi just now had come from Feng Yu's hand. If it weren't for the fact that his demonic blood had been ignited, the sword chi would have very likely chopped him into pieces. Similarly, Feng Chang, who was standing at the side, was also in disbelief. Looking at Feng Yu in front of him, he was a little shocked. This guy was really weird. While the two of them were in a daze, Feng Yu suddenly felt a faint force flowing within his dantian. The throne of Sin. Feng Yu instantly sensed the source of the power. The power of the Sin throne seemed to be rioting, as if it wanted to break out of the ground. "I'll spare your lives today, but I'll deal with you next time." Feng Yu had already disappeared from where he was after leaving behind these harsh words. Originally, he wanted to play with these two for a while. Unfortunately, the Sin throne's power seemed to be somewhat uncontrollable. If he spent more time to capture the two of them, who knew what would happen to the Sin throne? To be on the safe side, Feng Yu left the place and found a deserted mountain range. Although he regretted not using his full strength to deal with the two of them, his mind was now completely focused on the throne of Sin. Feng Yu withdrew all the power back into his chi-si. He tried his best to sense this power. However, half an hour passed. Feng Yu was a little depressed. The power of the throne of Sin seemed to have disappeared again. It didn't wander around at will. There was an illusion. If Feng Yu didn't take the initiative to communicate with the power of the throne of Sin, it would seem as if this power had disappeared into thin air. The vague feeling of restlessness from before had completely disappeared. Could it be that the throne of Sin can automatically sense it during a battle? Feng Yu was a little depressed. He really hadn't studied the throne of Sin properly. If the throne of Sin acted recklessly during a life and death battle in the future, the consequences would be very terrifying. "I have to find an opportunity to make a trip to the Spirit Beast clan," Feng Yu muttered to himself, his eyes once again fixed on a dense forest not far away. That was the only way to reach the stone step. Behind the stone steps was a great opportunity. Unfortunately, no one had been able to set foot there until now. Previously, with Bing Yuxia and Pang Chong present, it wasn't convenient for Feng Yu to display his strength, so he could only choose to give up for the time being. Now that there was no one around, the students surrounding the stone steps had basically retreated. A kind of curiosity occupied Feng Yu's body. Just what was the opportunity behind the stone steps? Feng Yu didn't stay any longer and directly walked in the direction of the stone step. Strangely enough, the Spirit Beast clan that had originally surrounded the forest had now disappeared without a trace. After the Spirit Beast clan disappeared, the place was incomparably silent, a feeling somewhat similar to the immortal demon grotto. Feng Yu walked very slowly, constantly probing along the way to prevent others from hiding in the dark. He naturally knew that in the face of the opportunity behind the stone steps, no one would choose to easily give up. Whether it was the students of the 4 great academies of the human race, the disciples of the demon race, or even the native Spirit Beast clan of this lost world, their hearts were definitely restless. If it really was a student of the 4 great academies of the human race, it would be fine, but if he encountered the other two, he wouldn't be so lucky. Feng Yu had seen the dangers of the stone steps with his own eyes. He didn't want to be swarmed by others when he stepped onto the stone steps, resulting in him falling into the gutter and failing miserably. Following the path back, he quickly walked out of the forest and appeared in front of the huge statue. There was a stone step in front of him. It looked very ordinary, with green bricks and broken tiles, not worth mentioning. The surroundings were quiet. If Fang Yu hadn't seen with his own eyes that a few people flew out from the stone steps and died one after another, he really didn't want to believe that there was anything strange about the stone steps. Since he was already here, Fang Yu didn't think too much about it. With his current strength, it shouldn't be a big problem. If he didn't go over and take a look, he wouldn't be satisfied. Without relaxing in the slightest, Fang Yu took a deep breath, slowly lifted his foot, and stepped on the first step of the stone step. The moment he stepped on it, Fang Yu indeed felt that there was something unusual. A weak force faintly appeared under his feet, as if it was sensing Fang Yu's aura. But soon, this strange force had already dissipated, and the numb feeling on Fang Yu's feet completely disappeared. There was no doubt that his feet stepped on the first step steadily. At the same time, Fang Yu didn't forget to look around, sweeping his perception to make sure that no one was hiding in the dark. Obviously, they had really decided to give up on the opportunity behind the stone step. To them, this should be an insurmountable gap. After stabilizing the first step, Fang Yu took a deep breath. Apart from the force just now, this step was no different from ordinary stone step. Perhaps because it had been in disrepair for a long time, there was actually a creaking sound. Slowly gathering the rich force in his energy reserve onto the dragon armor, Fang Yu lifted his foot and slowly stepped on the second step. Creak. Chapter 551. There was nothing unusual about the second step. It was similar to the first step. When he stepped on it, there was still a crisp sound. It seemed to be telling the story of time. This time, it was a little different from the first step, because when he stepped on it, there was no strange force under his feet, and there was no numbing feeling. It couldn't be any more normal. Fang Yu even had an illusion that there was nothing strange about this stone step. It was just like an ordinary stone step. There was even an impulse in his heart that he might as well take large strides and walk over. However, this idea was quickly killed in the cradle by Fang Yu. After all, these stone steps were not ordinary. It was absolutely impossible for Fang Yu to pass it so easily. The moment this thought arose in his mind, as expected, when Fang Yu lifted his leg to step on the third step, he felt that something was wrong. A force similar to when he stepped on the first step suddenly appeared. This force was no longer faintly discernible like it was on the first step. The aura was very strong, and the force was also quite strange. Fang Yu even wanted to directly withdraw his foot. However, he knew in his heart that at this time, there was no way out. If that force suddenly attacked again, he wouldn't be able to turn around and leave in time. This also indirectly proved that he was temporarily safe. To be safe, Fang Yu withdrew all the hidden aura on his body, revealing his true realm. The Martial King realm. He didn't know if the limit of this stone step was below the Martial King realm. After all, this was only hearsay. However, there was nothing wrong with giving it a try. After making sure that the third step was fine, Fang Yu lifted his other leg up as well. The moment his feet touched the ground, he angrily felt that the force began to penetrate his body from the bottom of his feet, lingering around Fang Yu's entire body. Without stopping, Fang Yu lifted his leg and stepped on the fourth step. When he just landed on it, Fang Yu could clearly feel that the force above was getting stronger and stronger. That strange aura also began to become stronger and stronger. If one was in the martial spirit realm, and was not very strong, their physical body would have been corroded by this force, which would pose a certain threat. However, this power only had an effect on the physical body after all, and it would not destroy one's cultivation base. As long as one's physical body was strong enough, they would be able to withstand the power here. This was something that Xiao-En, the leader of the Spirit Beast clan, could understand. His physical body was very strong. However, Fang Yu was now a martial king. His physical body had already undergone a qualitative improvement. In addition, there was a steady flow of energy from his qi to protect his body. These powers were temporarily unable to harm him. Fang Yu became bolder as he gradually gained confidence. He directly walked up the stone steps to the 5th level. Nothing happened in the first place. From the 6th, 7th, 8th, all the way to the 9th step, Fang Yu was still not swallowed by the strange power. There were 2 more steps in front of him. 11 steps, and he was done. Reaching this point was already the highest point that Fang Yu knew of. Of course, at this point, the power under his feet was already a little terrifying. It seemed to be 1,000 pounds of force that was firmly tied to Fang Yu's legs, making him almost unable to move. However, with the power in his qi and the strength of his physical body, Fang Yu still managed to walk over. The 9th step had already broken the record. As long as he stepped on the remaining 2 steps, he would be considered to have successfully passed. He was secretly delighted as he lifted his leg and stepped onto the 10th step. However, just as the tip of Fang Yu's foot landed on the 10th stone step, a strange energy suddenly came from not too far away. Fang Yu could not figure out the source of this power. However, he knew that this power was very strong. Vaguely, it carried a murderous aura. This power appeared too suddenly. It came from afar and was as fast as lightning. There was no chance for him to dodge at all. Fang Yu did not have time to think. He activated the energy in his qi and poured it all into the dragon armor. Boom, boom, boom. As expected, just as the dragon armor was about to take effect, this strange power had already engulfed Fang Yu's body. There was a flash of fire and Fang Yu only felt a little numb. His feet swayed slightly and he almost fell down the stone step. Even though the dragon armor had forcefully blocked this brutal force, the remaining force still caused Fang Yu's internal organs to feel numb from the shock. This power was simply too berserk. It was different from the power that came with the stone steps. This power did not only target the physical body, but also seemed to have a certain effect on one's realm. This was also the reason why the few people who died earlier had no realm. Fortunately, the attack just now. A strong and violent aura burst out from his qi, dispersing this strange force. This power was too violent and did not give anyone time to react. Even with Fang Yu's realm, he almost fell into it. With some lingering fear, Fang Yu regretted it. He should not have been so blindly confident. If he had not been a martial king and the rich aura had not gathered in his dantian, he would not have been able to use the second forbidden technique of the Void Emperor Codex, the 8 Desolates secret zone. It was no wonder that there were rumors that only those who had reached the martial king realm could pass through this stone step. This power came and went quickly. In the blink of an eye, it had disappeared. After the strange power swept through once, it did not appear again. Fang Yu felt a little lucky. It seemed that he had withstood it. On the last step, Fang Yu was afraid that this power would suddenly appear again. Moreover, he did not know if this power would be even stronger. However, there was no reason to turn back now. Taking a deep breath, Fang Yu stepped on it. He did not get distracted at all. His body only trembled slightly, but that energy did not appear again. When Fang Yu's feet landed on the huge round plate, he could no longer feel the strange aura. The journey was quite easy. Fang Yu was a little excited. What was the great opportunity behind the stone steps? The answer would be revealed soon. Now, the statue appeared in front of him. Previously, Fang Yu could not see the material and the outline of the statue clearly from afar. At this moment, they could clearly see that the statue was a spirit beast. The ferocious spirit beast seemed to be a protector of sorts. The statue was very big. He did not know who had carved it, but it was very lifelike. If not for the cracks on the stone walls that had been eroded by the wind and rain of time, it would have looked very lifelike. At first glance, it seemed to be a little similar to the demonic beast in the immortal demon cave. Chapter 552. The demonic beast in the immortal demon cave. When these words appeared in Feng Yu's mind, he suddenly had an idea. Could this statue be one of the other races of the spirit beast clan in the exiled grounds? And from its appearance, it seemed to be quite similar to the demonic beast in the immortal demon cave. Perhaps they might even be related by blood. However, ever since the demonic beast in the immortal demon cave fell unconscious in the immortal demon cave, the demonic beast that was immobilized by the demonic throne had disappeared. The spatial node of the immortal demon cave was now closed. It was almost impossible to enter. Feng Yu even had a premonition that the demonic beast might have been swallowed by the demonic throne's main body. After all, the demonic throne's main body was simply too powerful. Even Feng Yu had unknowingly entered the main body. If he hadn't fused with the demonic throne, it would have taken a lot of effort to come out. Slowly withdrawing his gaze from the statue, Feng Yu sighed and went around the statue. This statue was just an ordinary stone statue, and there was no remnant of soul power in it. It seemed that it was only used to intimidate other races, and had no substantial effect. After going around the statue, there was a slope below the disc that led straight to the intersection behind. Deep in the intersection, it seemed to be where the great opportunity they were talking about was. After walking down the disc and through the dense forest at the intersection, the scene inside appeared in front of Feng Yu. It was a sea of flowers. They were pink and had 6 petals. Each flower was independent and neat, as if someone had deliberately planned it. Feng Yu had never seen these flowers before. They were palm-sized, had no barbs, and were pink in color. They looked quite intoxicating. However, there was a faint aura in this sea of flowers. This aura was similar to the aura on the stone steps on the disc, and it could even be said that it was somewhat similar. This made Feng Yu have to be careful. Hey, who's there? Who dares to intrude into the sacred land of the Spirit Flower Clan? When Feng Yu was carefully looking around, he didn't know when, but 2 slim women had appeared in the sea of flowers. They had slender limbs, graceful figures, and exquisite faces. Looking at them from afar, they were intoxicating. However, the auras of these 2 women were not weak. Their cultivations had reached the 9-star martial spirit realm. Moreover, the aura they emitted was very similar to the sea of flowers. It seemed that they had an inseparable relationship with the sea of flowers. These 2 people lived in this place, and the only entrance was the entrance. This place should be a place of trouble. With the protection of that power, it had been a long time since anyone had been able to set foot here. Therefore, it was normal for them to be on guard against Feng Yu's arrival. Human Races Azure Academy's Azure. Feng Yu's eyes Spirit Flower Spirit Realm Dao Spirit Flower Clans. Peaceful means as first, this was his style. After all, he had come here in search of the great opportunity. He did not want to create unnecessary trouble, nor did he want to have any disputes with the natives here. Hearing Feng Yu's words, the 2 women looked at Feng Yu and thought for a long time. They didn't seem to sense any dangerous aura from Feng Yu. After a long while, they frowned and sized up Feng Yu. A moment later, one of the women asked again, "Why is a human here?" The 2 of them were already used to asking questions. This space was originally a severed world. Other than the spirit beasts and the magical beasts, no one else had set foot here. They were already surprised that Feng Yu was able to come, not to mention that there was a defensive formation outside. "I came by accident." Feng Yu smiled. He couldn't tell them that he was here to participate in the 100-man battle and kill each other. Nonsense. Sure enough, when they heard this, one of the women immediately berated him. "Do you think we can't tell your lies? Recently, the protective formation outside has been triggered frequently. The 2 of us have been observing it for a long time. Who knows how many people like you are out there? Don't tell me that they all came in by accident? The woman's voice was very stern and seemed to have the power to see through people's hearts. However, her cultivation level was still too low. It was impossible for her to see through Feng Yu's inner thoughts, so she didn't attack him directly. They have nothing to do with me. Feng Yu could only force a smile. From the looks of it, the formation outside was indeed set up by them. The terrifying power of this array formation was unknown as to who had created it. However, it was obvious that it wasn't the masterpiece of these two women who were only at the peak of the martial spirit realm. There was someone else behind them. Humph! How dare you talk nonsense? Do you think we're easy to fool? One of the women was already impatient. Her face turned red and it seemed that she was about to attack. However, just as she was about to attack, the other woman stopped her. Looking at Feng Yu, she continued to ask, "The formation outside is impossible for ordinary people to come in. How did you come in?" Her voice was very sharp. Without giving Feng Yu any chance to react, she added, "Tell me. So you came in like this, how else could I come in?" "I walked in." Feng Yu snorted coldly. He didn't want to argue with these two women. However, they seemed to want to argue with him. Their tone was like interrogating a criminal, which made Feng Yu very unhappy. "I think you're courting death today." When the woman who was already angry heard this, she immediately ran away. Waving the long sword in her hand, she was about to stab Feng Yu. Fortunately, the woman beside her was still rational and quickly stopped her. "Being able to come here means that you're quite capable. How about this, you can go back the way you came and we won't pursue this matter. We'll spare your life. Otherwise, don't think that you can leave here unscathed today." After the woman finished speaking, her body also emitted traces of a powerful aura. The two of them had been at the peak of the martial spirit realm for who knew how many years. If Feng Yu was still a 9-star martial spirit, it would indeed not be easy to deal with them. However, it was hard to say who would win now. Want to attack again? Feng Yu had heard this sentence many times recently. In the Immortal Demon Cave, the demon beasts had said it more than once. During this period of time, his ears were about to become calluses. Spare his life? Feng Yu only sneered in a low voice. "What are you laughing at?" Seeing that Feng Yu did not respond, a powerful aura suddenly erupted from his body. It was very domineering. The two women immediately became vigilant. Accompanied by a gentle wind, the aura on their bodies gradually became stronger. Chapter 553. The Peak of the Martial Spirit Realm. Although their realm was not very high, the two of them did not know what kind of cultivation method they were cultivating. This kind of cultivation method seemed to be quite powerful. Just in terms of aura, it was already very powerful. It was no wonder that they would appear in this place. Even the person in charge of scouting had this kind of strength. Thinking about it, the person behind them should be even stronger. Although the two of them seemed very powerful together. However, this kind of strength was still a little lacking if they wanted to compete with Feng Yu. One of the girls shouted and her feet suddenly left the ground. Her entire body floated directly into the pink sea of flowers. In the sea of flowers, everywhere she passed, there was an extremely gentle power emerging from under her feet. Suddenly, the seemingly gentle petals of the sea of flowers began to open, and the target was Feng Yu in front of them. Hundreds of petals flew up, forming a beautiful sea of flowers in the air. However, there was an extremely powerful murderous aura hidden in this beautiful scene. As the petals scattered, rays of light suddenly appeared, accompanied by a faint floral fragrance, directly enveloping Feng Yu's entire body. If he died under a peony flower, he would be a romantic ghost. However, this was not a peony flower. Feng Yu did not want to die either. Set effect. Falling great scorching sun. The sword aura in Fang Yu's hand flew horizontally, and a violent sword aura condensed. All of a sudden, it swept towards the overwhelming number of pink petals that were sweeping towards them. Whoosh! Under the sweep of the huge sword aura, many petals flew and fell to the ground. The power of the petals had been completely scattered by the sword aura. The remaining withered leaves lay quietly on the ground. It was just one move. This sea of flowers accompanied by endless power was easily scattered by Fang Yu just like that. The two girls were a little surprised. However, the two of them were not stunned. The petals could not cause any substantial damage to him. Then what about the sword? The two girls shouted at the same time, and the long swords in their hands danced in the wind. The buzzing sword aura with a burst of murderous aura was directly aimed at Fang Yu's Adam's apple. Boom! Fang Yu directly activated the true qi in his body, sweeping up the withered flowers all over the ground and condensing them into a pink long sword. The sharpness of the long sword was not inferior to the sword intent of the two girls. Clang, clang, clanged, the gigantic pink longsword danced in the wind, and the tip of the sword was directly aimed at the two women's long swords. The two originally planned to attack Fang Yu himself, but they didn't expect that Fang Yu would suddenly make such a move. He was a little surprised and hurriedly pulled back his sword to block. When the two extremely powerful swords collided, there was actually a series of crisp sound. Just like that, the swords in their hands were sliced apart by the pink petals. The pink longsword swept out with a momentum that could cut through iron as if it were mud. When their swords broke, they looked at each other at the same time. Their eyes were filled with indescribable shock. How is this possible? The edges of their swords were forged from the dark ice iron, which was the coldest material in the Lost World. It might not be able to cut through iron like mud, but it was at least extremely sharp. How could it be so easily severed by a cluster of flower petals? While the two of them were still in shock, the pink longsword's momentum did not decrease. The cold gleam on the tip of the sword, which originally carried a faint floral fragrance, had already reached their foreheads. With just a light wave, the two of them would definitely be beheaded. Both of you, I have no intention of offending you. I hope you won't make things difficult for me. I only take what belongs to me. I will definitely not run amok and cause trouble for you. Fang Yu controlled the pink longsword with both hands, and a trace of indistinct hostility flashed across his eyes. The power behind these two women was very strong, and Fang Yu did not want to cause trouble. Therefore, he should quit while he was ahead. How do I know if what you said is true or false? This is our clan's land. You outsiders. The two of them still wanted to say something, but Fang Yu's pink longsword was already pressed against their foreheads. He didn't want to cause trouble, but he was absolutely not afraid of trouble. These two were really stubborn. Since it was so troublesome, why not stop? However, just as Fang Yu's red longsword was about to land, a delicate shout suddenly came from not far away. The voice was crisp and clear, like an oriole coming out of the valley. However, in comparison, the majesty of this voice was much stronger than these two women. At the same time, there was a force that directly attacked. Although this force was not very strong, its speed was as fast as lightning. Fang Yu did not dare to delay. He immediately withdrew the pink longsword in his hand and violently swung it behind him. Boom! With a crisp sound, the longsword directly scattered the force completely. A moment later, a graceful woman appeared in the sea of flowers. She was not very old, had delicate features, and was wearing a long dress. This woman was even more beautiful than the two in front of him. Especially the aura on her, it was rare in the world. In the sea of flowers, she was like a fairy descending to the mortal world. She frowned slightly and looked up and down at Fang Yu. Her face was cold and expressionless. "Who are you?" the woman slowly asked. Her voice was as cold as ice, without any emotion. "Human Race Azure Dragon Institute student," Fang Yu said in a deep voice. This woman in front of him was very strong. She was a 2-star martial king. She had obviously held back in the previous attack. Otherwise, Fang Yu would not have been able to dodge it so easily. Human race. After hearing these 2 words, the woman murmured with a melancholy look on her face. What are you doing here? After thinking for a while, the woman asked this deadly question again. Taking something, we won't disturb you too much, Fang Yu said. This woman was very strong and should have been a martial king for some time. If they were to fight, he might not be able to win. Therefore, it was better to be patient at this time. The thing you want is in this sea of flowers. However, whether or not you can obtain it will depend on your luck. After a moment of silence, the woman pointed at a prominent place in the middle of the sea of flowers and said, How do you know I want this? Fang Yu was a little surprised. This woman seemed to be able to see through Fang Yu's thoughts and directly guessed Fang Yu's purpose. After so many years, countless people have come here, be it spiritual beasts or magical beasts, but unfortunately, no one has been able to enter. You're the first. The woman gently lifted her dress and said coldly. Fang Yu frowned. In that case, the statue outside should be of the spiritual beasts without a doubt. It seemed that it was no longer a secret that there was a great opportunity here. So many people wanted to take it, but they did not have the strength. What's with the statue outside? After thinking for a while, Fang Yu still asked this question. Since the spiritual beasts had wanted to take it, they should be enemies with this woman. How could they exist as statues here? Chapter 554. That statue is just an ant of the spiritual beast clan. The woman was still calm and her eyes were cold. She had turned a powerful spiritual beast clan cultivator into a statue and made it lose its aura. Not even its demonic soul was left behind. This kind of power was very terrifying. But from the woman's mouth, she didn't expect it to sound so casual and not worth mentioning. However, Fang Yu suddenly remembered something. This woman was only a martial king. There were many demonic beasts in the spiritual beast clan who were at the demonic emperor level. Since the statue outside dared to barge in, it was naturally not weak. If they really encountered it, this woman might not be able to easily crush it. Moreover, she had turned it into a statue. In other words, there was an even more powerful existence behind this woman. A 2-star martial king. Could the existence behind her be a martial emperor? While Fang Yu was thinking about this, the woman seemed to have seen through his thoughts. She waved her hand and did not intend to say another word to Fang Yu. She also did not want to reveal anything to him. Let's go, she said to the other 2 women. Huh! Are we leaving just like that? The 2 women were in disbelief. For hundreds of years, they had guarded this place to prevent outsiders from encroaching on this space. However, they did not expect that someone would really barge in today, and they did not fight to the death. We can't lose this thing for nothing. The 2 women were clearly unwilling to give up and looked at the woman in the lead as they spoke. It's been hundreds of years, and I don't know how many people have died for this thing. Now that someone has broken through the barrier, let's just give it to him. Anyway, this thing is useless to the spiritual flower clan. Why don't we let him take it away so that we can live in peace here? The woman said in a deep voice. She seemed to have thought it through. This opportunity was a disaster for the spiritual flower clan. Now that someone had the ability to take it away, it was a win-win situation. Firstly, no one would continue to lose their lives for this thing. Secondly, outsiders would no longer encroach on this place. Thinking about it this way, it would be beneficial for the spiritual flower clan. Sigh. The 2 women sighed. Clearly, they did not want to let Fang Yu off so easily. This is the patriarch's order. You 2 shouldn't stay here any longer. Seeing that the 2 women didn't seem to be moved, the woman became a little impatient. He waved his hand and said, You 2 are no match for him. With that, he turned around and disappeared into the sea of flowers. The remaining two women naturally didn't dare to stay any longer. Their bodies flashed, and they disappeared without a trace. At least you know your place. Fang Yu snorted coldly in his heart. His gaze landed on the abrupt area in the middle of the sea of flowers. There, a faint power was being emitted. Presumably, that ability should be the great opportunity that outsiders were talking about. He took a step forward and shuttled through the sea of flowers. Fang Yu naturally knew that these dazzling flower petals weren't normal, so he became more careful. Fortunately, nothing strange happened along the way, and they arrived at the center of the sea of flowers. Suddenly, a chessboard appeared in the middle of the area. The black and white chessboard lay quietly on the ground. Boundless power spread out from the chessboard. This is... Just as Fang Yu's gaze landed on the chessboard, a powerful force enveloped his entire body. In the next second, the surrounding space began to shake violently. After a while, it returned to normal. By the time Fang Yu opened his eyes again, he was already in the middle of a void. His entire body was floating in midair. In front of him was a pavilion. Outside the pavilion, a straight path appeared in front of him. Fang Yu stepped onto the path and appeared outside the pavilion after a while. Outside the pavilion, there was a white glow. It was all nothingness. In the pavilion, an old man with white hair and a youthful complexion was sitting facing each other. His gaze was deep, and there seemed to be some confusion in his eyes. He was hesitating, as if he was thinking. He was mumbling something, but the chess piece in his hand didn't move. On the chessboard, the chess pieces were densely packed in a circle. There was no gap at all. The last chess piece was the white chess piece. The old man was immersed in the chess game alone. He didn't seem to notice the guest outside the pavilion at all. Fang Yu stood motionless outside the parking lot, his eyes fixed on the chessboard. To be precise, it was a powerful force that forced Fang Yu to look at the chessboard. This was a deadlock. Nobody knew how perverted the old man was. He was able to make both the black and white chess pieces fall into a deadlock at the same time. Whether it was right or wrong, no matter what. As long as one move was wrong, the whole game would be lost. Now, it was the white chess piece's turn. As long as there was a slight carelessness, the black chess piece would win. This was because the white chess piece had nowhere to retreat. Similarly, it was the same for the black chess piece. As long as the white chess piece didn't fall into a deadlock, then this troublesome matter would fall on the black chess piece. The old man held the white chess piece like this. Nobody knew how long he had been in this position. However, it was obvious that the old man was completely immersed in the chessboard and couldn't extricate himself. If he wanted to wake up, he would have to wait until the day the game was broken. He did not know how long the old man had been here, nor did he know how long this move of his had troubled him. However, as the saying went, the onlooker sees more clearly than the person involved. 3 days later, Fang Yu, who was standing outside the pavilion, finally relaxed his eyebrows. This game wasn't a deadlock. It was a 9 out of 10 chance of death, but it could also be seen as 1 death and 9 out of 10 chances of survival. Logically speaking, this game was unsolvable. The old man would be immersed in the game forever and never be able to extricate himself. However, from the perspective of a bystander, Fang Yu had already thought of a way. A 9 out of 10 chance of death didn't mean that there was no chance of survival. Only by retreating in order to advance could one be able to escape death. Previously, Fang Yu was prejudiced by first impressions. He was only thinking about how to advance. He was blindly looking for a way to advance, but advancing meant death. Therefore, he had been looking for a way to advance without perishing. However, after studying it for a while, he thought of 10,000 possibilities and found that there was almost no way to survive. However, when he changed his mind and looked at the game from the black chess piece's perspective again, he suddenly understood something. Retreat as the first step, retreat as the way to advance. This game could be solved. Of course, Fang Yu was looking at the whole game from the perspective of an observer. He was looking at the whole game from the perspective of God, and came to a conclusion. As for the people in the game, it was impossible for them to see this situation. This was also the reason why the old man had been hesitant and kept in this state. He had already entered a maze and couldn't see the whole situation. This was also the first time in history that Fang Yu understood the true meaning of the phrase, "The onlooker sees more clearly." Chapter 555. There was a hidden meaning in this chess game. This implied meaning was the all-encompassing meaning of all things. Only by looking at the overall situation and not getting too deep into it could one get the final answer. At this moment, Fang Yu suddenly realized something. Why did it sometimes seem a little strenuous when facing a powerhouse of the same or even a higher level? That was because, from the very beginning, his thoughts had been preconceived. When two people fought, they were thinking about the same thing. That was, how to kill the other party. Once they had such thoughts, the two of them would definitely not hold back when they fought. However, neither side would think about what methods the other party would use or how to kill the other party in order to find a solution. In this way, in the battle between two sides, the one who fell would definitely be the weaker one. Basically, there would not be a case of the weak defeating the strong. Just like this old man. He was always immersed in how to break the game. Little did he know that in order to break the game, he had to look at the overall situation. Only by retreating and advancing freely could one be undefeated. Thinking of this, Fang Yu directly took a step forward and walked into the pavilion. A white chess piece appeared in his hand and he gently placed it on the chessboard. Clack! With a crisp sound, the remaining 6 positions in the chessboard became 5. Fang Yu's move directly changed the situation of the white chess piece from passive to active. Retreating in order to advance, he would fight to survive. He left the difficult problem to the black chess piece. At this moment, the black chess piece absolutely had no way out. With no way to retreat, it could only attack first. Once it attacked, the black chess piece's entire plan would be ruined. In this way, the black chess piece would definitely lose and the white chess piece would definitely win. The moment the chessboard was solved, the old man's aura suddenly recovered. He was puzzled and his eyes suddenly lit up. Who solved this game? The old man suddenly turned around and saw Fang Yu standing by the chessboard. At the same time, the entire chessboard began to shake violently. In the blink of an eye, the chessboard cracked all over and showed signs of collapsing. In the next second, the chessboard collapsed and turned into dust. At the same time, a black and white chessboard instantly turned into a shadow and entered Fang Yu's head. Not bad. The old man had already sized up Fang Yu from head to toe. There was a trace of gratification in his eyes. Who are you? The old man asked. Fang Yu. Fang Yu replied indifferently. Not bad, you can actually break my eternal chess game. The old man nodded in satisfaction and gestured for Fang Yu to sit down. After Fang Yu and the old man sat opposite each other, the old man poured a pot of tea. After shaking the aroma, he handed a cup to Fang Yu. Fang Yu respectfully received the tea. He looked at the old man and asked, "May I ask if this is the eternal chess game?" Fang Yu had heard of the ancient chess game. It was a chessboard left behind by a real immortal during the ancient times. At that time, 3 pieces were placed on the chessboard. However, once the 3 pieces were placed, the direction of the entire game was determined. The old man just followed the direction and laid out the entire chessboard. However, this was not something an ordinary person could do. According to legend, as long as one had the ability to break this eternal chess game, he could own the chessboard. From then on, one could obtain the will inheritance of a real immortal and comprehend the fortune of becoming an immortal. When the fortune reached a certain level, it was even possible to break through all realms and step into the realm of a real immortal. However, the real immortal only appeared in legends. No one knew if it was real or not. As for the eternal chess game left behind by a real immortal, it was just a legend. That's right. This is the eternal chess game. The old man nodded and looked at Feng Yu. He said, however, this eternal chess game is really too profound. It has puzzled me for hundreds of years. It's a pity that I haven't understood the mystery of it for hundreds of years. I didn't expect you to see through the chessboard today. I'm impressed. The old man took a sip of tea and the smile on his face did not fade. Although he might have comprehended this eternal chess game just to get an opportunity, it was so that he could improve his strength. However, after comprehending for many years, he still could not solve the chessboard. After such a long time, solving the chessboard had become an obsession in his heart. This obsession was very scary. If he did not deal with it in time, it would not help his cultivation over time. On the contrary, it would bring shackles to his cultivation. Today, Feng Yu had solved the chessboard. Naturally, he had also solved the obsession in the old man's heart. Once the obsession was solved, the old man would naturally not be immersed in the chessboard. He could also continue his cultivation. I was just lucky. Feng Yu smiled and shook his head. He did not dare to be arrogant in front of the old man. Judging from the old man's aura, he was already above the realm of a martial emperor. He had also stayed in the realm of a martial emperor for hundreds of years. His strength was terrifying. Every word and action of his was filled with an incomparably violent power. I don't think it's a fluke. The old man shook his head and pondered for a long time with a smile. Back then, I went through a lot of trouble in order to find someone to enter this place and solve the chessboard. However, those who came here were basically all rascals. I had no choice but to set up a formation there. This formation is specially targeted at people below the realm of a martial king. Only experts above the realm of a martial king can solve such a chessboard. Unfortunately, the effect was not obvious. Therefore, I could only slaughter the local living creatures and make them into statues to warn the future generations. Only those who are strong can enter this chessboard. And you are the one who has the strength. If you are not strong enough, you will not be able to break the formation and enter so easily. It is even more impossible to solve this eternal chess game. When the old man said this, he had already drunk a cup of strong tea. The smile on his face did not fade. All of this was just the old man's guess. However, this guess was quite accurate. The person who could break his formation and enter this place was at least a martial king. Actually, the old man did not need to guess at all. He only needed to release the power of his mind and investigate slightly to clearly know Feng Yu's true strength. After all, in the face of the suppression of the realm, everything was futile. However, at this moment, Feng Yu was thinking about something else. He had originally thought that the formation outside was set up by the spiritual flower tribe. He did not expect it to be set up by this old man. And that statue was also the old man's doing. In that case, it was understandable. After all, the old man was a peak martial emperor. It was easy for him to deal with a spirit beast that did not have much combat experience. Although the demonic beast's strength could also be at the martial emperor level, spirit beasts were different from humans. They were born one realm behind. This was also the reason why Feng Yu could survive in front of a martial emperor. If it were a martial emperor, it would be impossible. Chapter 556. Senior, you flatter me. Feng Yu was still quite humble. He was still unmoved by the old man's flattery. Young man, it's good to be humble. The old man tasted the tea and looked at Feng Yu with a gaze filled with admiration. He was so young and yet so powerful. However, he was neither arrogant nor rash. He was even humble. This person would definitely become someone great in the future. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the ancient chessboard. Ding. The ancient chessboard has been integrated. Ding. An incomplete piece of the ancient chessboard has been detected. Ding. System mission activated. System mission. Find the missing piece of the ancient chessboard and complete the ancient chessboard. Mission reward: Art of Enlightenment. While Fang Yu's mind was in a mess, a series of mechanical system sounds came into his head. After the ancient chessboard was integrated, the system mission was unexpectedly triggered. He was overjoyed, but Fang Yu was not happy. This ancient chessboard was actually missing a piece. Without a piece, how could there be a chessboard? Without a chessboard, this ancient chessboard would be meaningless. Although he did not believe that this was a chessboard left by a perfected immortal who could break through to the martial emperor realm, he must be very powerful to be recognized by the system. However, where could he find the missing piece? The world was so big. Not to mention the outside world, this lost world was divided into 4 regions. The area was so vast that there was no way to start. This system, not only did it give him a mission, it did not even give him a hint. Fang Yu was a little disappointed. However, this chessboard was only missing a piece, and he did not want to give up. Senior, there's something I don't know if it's appropriate to ask. Fang Yu slowly put down the teacup in his hand and looked at the old man as he asked. Go ahead. The old man was magnanimous. After all, Fang Yu was the person who helped him solve the ancient chessboard. He was in a good mood now. Why is this ancient chessboard missing a piece? After a while, Fang Yu slowly asked. Hearing that, the old man was slightly stunned. However, he immediately laughed out loud. Sure enough, your strength is extraordinary. The old man laughed a little fiercely. Then, he looked at Fang Yu and said, From the looks of it, you should be an expert in chess. Seeing Fang Yu shake his head, the old man frowned slightly. That's strange. Not only were you able to easily break the game, you were even able to tell that one of the hundreds of chess pieces was missing? Facing the old man's gaze, Fang Yu only smiled and said, It's just that I'm more sensitive to numbers. That's why I can tell. Fang Yu's words were impeccable, and the old man nodded in agreement. Although he could see that Fang Yu was a little unusual, it was not good to continue asking. He thought for a moment and continued, This ancient chess game is indeed missing a chess piece. The old man didn't intend to hide anything. He poured a cup of tea and said, When the eternal chess game was born, everyone wanted to comprehend it. Unfortunately, no one was able to comprehend it. Long-term accidents would cause people to harbor evil thoughts. Since they couldn't break the eternal chess game, they stole the chess piece. At that time, a martial honorable powerhouse took a white chess piece out of the eternal chess game. As for where the chess piece went in the end, I have no way of knowing. However, there was news that the chess piece was still scattered in the lost ground. After a long time, that chess piece also became a creation. Anyone who obtained the chess piece would have a chance to obtain the creation. However, that bit of good fortune was nothing to a martial king expert. As for whether the loss of this chess piece would affect the ancient chess game in any way, the ancient chess game was still in progress. I think you already know the answer in your heart. After all, you are the one who broke the chess game. Naturally, you will obtain the inheritance of the chess game. The old man's words were watertight. Between his words, he even had the intention of testing Fang Yu. It had to be said that the older the ginger, the spicier it was. From the moment Fang Yu asked this question, he probably already knew. This time, the eternal chess game that Fang Yu obtained was not complete. It even had some impact. Previously, he had really thought that Fang Yu was some kind of math genius. Only then did he realize that there must be something wrong with the eternal chess game. Thank you, Senior. Fang Yu cupped his hands and thanked him. At this moment, his mind was completely focused on the scattered chess piece. It was still in the lost ground. Furthermore, it had become a creation. Wait, Fang Yu muttered. The chess piece became a creation. Could it be that this was the opportunity that the demon disciple had obtained, as Bing Yuxia had said? Fang Yu had heard this news from Bing Yuxia. At that time, the demon disciple had obtained a white chess piece by accident. From the chess piece, he had comprehended the Tao of heaven and earth. From then on, his cultivation level had directly increased by several small stages. Now, he was already at the peak of martial spirit. Furthermore, by relying on this opportunity, he actually became one of the few remaining disciples of the devil race who wasn't too wretched, aside from the devil's son. In addition to what the old man had said, Fang Yu was almost certain. The chess piece that had not been lost was now in the hands of the demon disciple. Now that he had a direction, things were easy to handle. Before the 100-man battle ended, he would not leave this lost ground. As long as he could find him, this eternal chess game would naturally be complete. Alright, the chess game has been broken. I won't stay any longer. The old man drank the last sip of tea in the cup and smiled at Fang Yu. I haven't set foot in the world of the human race for a long time. It's time to go out and take a look. Senior, where are you going? Fang Yu looked at the old man and could not help but ask. The old man was very strong. Originally, he wanted to accompany him, but he did not expect that the old man had no such thoughts at all. Idle clouds and scattered cranes. I'll go wherever I want. The old man smiled and waved at Fang Yu. If there's a chance in the future, set up a chess game and let's compete again. After saying that, the space suddenly began to tremble. The surrounding air condensed rapidly. Finally, it was accompanied by a distortion of space. Everything in the surroundings had disappeared and was replaced by a pink sea of flowers. Pink flower petals instantly bloomed all over the land that had suddenly appeared. The old man's figure had already disappeared in the surroundings. Only Fang Yu was left. Looking at the surroundings, the environment was not bad. However, he was not in the mood to enjoy the scenery here now. The most important thing at the moment was to find the chess piece that was lost in the hands of the demon disciple. After completing the eternal chess game, he would be able to comprehend the profound meaning within. At this moment, the eternal chess game had already been reflected in Fang Yu's mind. The chess game was all-encompassing and vivid as it operated in his mind. On the ground, the shattered chessboard in that white virtual realm appeared again. This chessboard was no longer useful. However, Fang Yu still picked it up and placed it in the 8 desolate secret territory. Chapter 557. When he walked out of this pink sea of flowers, Fang Yu felt the changes in his surroundings. That faintly discernible power had already disappeared. He could no longer sense that strange aura from before. The formation that the elder had set up must have lost its effect. He walked out of the huge round plate along the same path. On the round plate, the statue was still standing quietly in its original spot. The cracks on it were still the same. From afar, the statue still looked ferocious, making one feel as if they did not dare to get close to it. Only Fang Yu knew in his heart that the enchantment here had already been broken, and the array formation was already useless. When he walked down the stone steps again, the strange power on them had already disappeared. This time they were no different from real stone steps. Fang Yu walked down the steps as if he was walking on flat ground. He turned around and looked at the intersection behind him. That was the spiritual flower tribe's territory. He had a feeling that there was a powerful being in the spiritual flower tribe. Originally, Fang Yu wanted to go in and take a look. However, after thinking about it, he gave up. The spiritual flower tribe clearly did not welcome outsiders. The most important thing now was to find that lost chess piece. He walked along the forest path out of the valley. The traces of his battle with the demon son Fang Chong were still visible. However, demon son Fang Chong was nowhere to be found. In the previous battle, The other demon's son had burned his demon blood but was unable to kill Feng Yu. Now, his strength should have been greatly reduced. As for Feng Chang, he might not be safe and sound now. The two of them had already disappeared. However, Feng Yu could not help but be cautious. This was because there was a strange aura around him. This aura came and went quickly. It seemed to be deliberately avoiding Feng Yu. Feng Yu used all his senses, but he still could not find the source of that strange aura. As he was secretly on guard, Feng Yu had already crossed from the southernmost to the northernmost. This was because there was a powerful spot of light flashing on the bracelet. This meant that there were many people gathered there. It seemed like they were fighting, or perhaps they were fighting for something else. Judging from the light, there seemed to be many people from the 4 great academies. Feng Yu didn't know what was going on there, but he still walked over. A moment later, Feng Yu was standing on top of a valley. The valley was filled with people. They were the students of the 4 great academies of the human race, as well as the few remaining disciples of the demon race. They didn't know why they would meet here, but an intense battle had already broken out between the two sides. In the midst of the battle, no one noticed the sudden appearance of Feng Yu. Originally, he thought that the human race's 4 great academies had a large number of students in this battle, while the demon race's disciples were in 2s and 3s. It was simply impossible for them to be a match. However, Feng Yu had miscalculated in the end. Unlike what he had imagined, the scene did not turn into a one-sided massacre. On the contrary, just 4 demon clan disciples had already caused dozens of students from the 4 great human academies to fall into a disadvantageous position. From the looks of it, the students of the 4 human academies seemed to be having a hard time. Not only that, but the attacks of the demon race disciples became even more ferocious, each move fatal. Not long after, several students from the 4 great academies fell one after another. The situation reversed very quickly. The fiend race's disciples gained the upper hand very quickly, grasping the initiative. In this way, it wouldn't be long before the scene turned into a one-sided massacre. It was just that it was the fiend race's disciples who slaughtered the human race's 4 great academies students instead. Among this, it still did not include the intervention of the fiend children. Where did the fiend children go? Feng Yu muttered to himself in his heart. Especially Zhang Meng and Tian Kuan, 2 people. Ever since meeting in the Immortal Devil Grotto the last time, he had not seen the 2 people's figures until now. And Feng Chang and the other fiend child were also gone at this time. Looking at the situation below, it should be the final showdown between the human race and fiend race. Virtually everyone already gathered in the valley. Once the victor was decided, then this 100-person battle would signify the end. But it was at this sort of critical time that Zhang Meng, Tian Kuan, Feng Chang, and the rest actually did not have the intention of taking action. Feng Yu could not quite watch on anymore. The most crucial thing of the system's mission this time was to lead the human race's 4 great academies students to victory. If the scene was allowed to carry on like this, then the fiend race was very likely to be the final victor. With this thought in mind, Feng Yu leaped, planning on joining this chaotic battle. However, just as he was about to move, several auras suddenly came from behind. These auras were very familiar to Feng Yu. It was precisely the fiend child Feng Chang that he let go previously. Not only that, behind these auras there were also 2 familiar auras, Zhang Meng and Tian Kuan. Looks like they also wanted to join in this chaotic battle and directly end this 100-person battle. However, they did not plan on taking action at this time. Instead, they looked at that side of the trembling disciples in the valley very confidently. Only then did Feng Yu turn his gaze back to the valley once more. Following the fiend child Feng Yu's gaze, only then did Feng Yu notice. Inside the valley, even though there were only 4 fiend race disciples, the other 3 people's strength looked very ordinary. But that fiend child who had been standing at the outermost periphery all along looked very extraordinary. His hands formed seals, his face looking calm and collected. He did not make a move either. However, him standing at the periphery made the other fiend child's fighting spirit soar. Not only that, the fiend race people began to fight more bravely as they fought, and even their strength strengthened. That kind of feeling was like the fiend child Qin Feng's fiend blood-boiling cultivation method, very terrifying. Not only that, the human race students seemed to be getting more and more exhausted the more they fought. Their movements were already extremely slow. If it were under normal circumstances, this was absolutely something impossible. Even if there would be exhaustion in battle, it would absolutely not be to this extent. And when Fang Yu swept a glance around, only then did he discover the mystery within. That fiend race disciple standing at the periphery who had not made a move all along. What he was holding in his hand was precisely that chess piece that was lost in the eternal chess game. The moment he saw the chess piece, Fang Yu already understood. The reason why the fiend race disciples would be so abnormal was very clearly the credit of that white chess piece. Previously, he heard that the fiend race disciples obtained the opportunity of the white chess piece, and their realm already improved several times. But never thought that the power of the white chess piece would actually be so powerful. Looking at his calm and collected appearance, it seemed like victory was already in his grasp. If he won this battle, it was very likely that he would become a fiend child existence in the fiend race in the future by relying on this chess piece. Furthermore, his strength might not be low. The power of this chess piece is so great. That's right, it's just a pity that this opportunity isn't mine. Sigh, just what's the origin of this chess piece? Even Fang Chang and the rest who were standing at a distance watching the battle also began to sigh emotionally. They seemed to be somewhat envious of this guy. However, although they wanted it very much, now was not the time. Chapter 558. The battle between the fiend race and the human race was bound to come to an end today. And at this time, the fiend race disciples and the human race's 4 great academies students were in the midst of a fierce battle. If they rashly made a move, it was very likely to lead to an irreversible situation. Of course, they made a move not to lead the fiend race to victory, but for the white chess piece in that fiend race disciple's hand. They had long planned it out in their hearts. After this 100-person battle ended, they would take advantage of the fact that that fellow's strength was still not very strong to directly snatch the chess piece in his hand. Only in this way could they, the fiend heirs, fight less. And the person who could obtain that white chess piece would naturally increase his strength by quite a bit. Prepare to die. Just as the battle in the canyon was about to determine a victor, a burst of shouts suddenly came from the opposite mountain top. A violent sword chi directly slashed out, ruthlessly tearing apart the space in this side of the canyon. A figure waved a long sword in his hand and entered the battlefield domineeringly. The moment he landed, that sword chi instantly sent a fiend race disciple flying. After Dao flew out, he already stopped breathing in a blink of an eye. When the dust gradually dissipated, Fang Yu finally saw that figure clearly. It was the White Tiger region's Wu Wu. No one knew when she arrived, but when she saw many White Tiger region students being massacred in the canyon, she immediately made a move. At the same time she landed, Bing Yuxia and Pang Ming both also slowly chased over. The 3 people appearing at the same time brought quite a bit of shock to the fiend race disciples. These 3 were all prodigies of the 4 great academies. Especially Wu Wu, she was an existence that ranked first or second in the White Tiger region. The fiend race's mission this time also had to eradicate her together. The 3 people joining hands immediately gave the remaining disciples quite a bit of breathing space. For a moment the scene was somewhat still. The fiend race disciple holding the white chess piece in his hand had a solemn look on his face. Immediately, he did not rashly make a move either. and the remaining 2 fiend race disciples also already hid behind him, having no intention of making a move. Come at the right time. Just nice, catch them all in one fell swoop. Wait a little longer, there are still a few who haven't appeared. The fiend's son, watching the battle by the side, already somewhat could not hold back. Such a once-in-a-lifetime good opportunity, just nice to catch all these prodigies in one fell swoop. However, just as they were about to attack, Fong Chong stopped them. And when he said there were still a few people who hadn't appeared, he was probably referring to Fong Yu and the others. Only the Holy Spirit child, Lai Feng, and a few others were left. Their mission was to capture the most outstanding students of the 4 great academies, especially the Azure Dragon Academy. However, up until now, other than Fong Yu, no one else from the Azure Dragon Institute had appeared. With that in mind, Fong Chong stopped the others. Firstly, he could bide his time. Secondly, it was a good opportunity to see how strong the person who obtained the white ghost stone was. He had a premonition in his heart that this guy's strength was obviously not ordinary. The battle just now was not his true strength at all. Sure enough, as soon as they finished speaking, a voice suddenly rang out. In the valley, several people moved at the same time. Bing Yuxia and Pang Ming had been working together for a long time, so they had a tacit understanding. The 2 of them acted almost at the same time, firmly sealing off all the escape routes of the Devil Race disciples. As for Wu Wu, she was already brandishing her longsword. Buzz, 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 the sword chi whistled as it pierced toward the Devil Race disciple with the white ghost stone in his hand. Esoteric. However, just as the longsword was about to pierce through that guy's eyes, he turned around and threw the white ghost stone in his hand into the air. The moment the white ghost stone flew into the air, a huge invisible force shrouded that space. Under the force of the energy, the world started to spin rapidly. In an instant, with him as the center, the ground that was dozens of meters long was directly split open. Following the crack, a black and white chessboard appeared on the 2 chessboards on the ground. This Go board was very familiar to Fong Yu. It was the Go board that he had seen in the Sea of Pink Flowers earlier. It was the ancient Go board. However, this Go board was not complete. There were only 3 Go stones. Only 3 Go stones. Presumably, this was only the initial form of the ancient Go board. As for the endgame, the elder had spent dozens of years and painstaking effort to set it up. When Fong Yu saw this Go board, he could not help but be shocked. The esoteric meaning of these 3 Go stones was really profound. Not to mention breaking the Go board, just setting up the entire endgame according to the esoteric meaning of the 3 Go stones was already a very difficult task. Just as he was meditating, there was a change in the valley. Suddenly, a bright light flashed from the chessboard. Every place where a Go stone could be placed had a faint light beam. Within the light beam, there was an extremely powerful and ancient aura. This aura was even somewhat shocking. This was merely the power of a white Go stone in the ancient Go board. If the ancient chessboard was truly complete, the power contained within it was self-evident. However, it was these dozens of light beams that directly froze everyone standing on the Go board. It was just like the demonic beast that had been frozen in place in the Sin throne. "What's going on?" Bing Yuxia exclaimed in shock. This power came in a very strange way. It caught her off guard, and she was completely immobilized. Wu Wu was obviously not feeling well either. She held the long sword in her hand, and there was an indescribable look of shock in her eyes. She just stood there with the long sword raised, unable to move. In the next second, this strange light beam rose violently and directly enveloped everyone, firmly wrapping them within. Fong Yu could clearly see that the eyes of everyone had dimmed. It was just like the old man that he first met in the ancient Go board. It was obvious that they had entered the game. That ancient Go board had already been broken by Fong Yu. However, this white Go stone had been lost in the ancient Go board for a long time. The Go board that he had created was also lifelike and basically identical. If they wanted to return to normal, they had to break out of the Go board. Otherwise, it was very likely that they would be trapped in the ancient Go board forever, unable to make a move, just like that old man. Even if an external force forcefully interfered, their divine souls would be completely lost. Not only would they lose their realm, but they might also directly become an idiot. Haha. Take your time to solve this ancient Go board. After doing all this, the demon disciple directly stretched out his hand and took back the white Go stone, snorting coldly. This was the true power of the white Go stone. It was also the real reason why he had become stronger after obtaining this opportunity. No matter who it was, no matter what cultivation technique it was, as long as it was not suppressed by a higher realm, they could only be trapped in the Go board. If they were smart, they could solve the Go board and come out. Chapter 559. Of course, there was no lack of foolish people in this world. If one was foolish and could not solve it, then they would be trapped in the chessboard for the rest of their lives. Did the so-called prodigies of the 4 great academies have the ability to solve this ancient chessboard? Clearly, the young man treated them as fools and thought that they could not solve the chessboard. Therefore, he had no intention of killing them at this moment. He just stood at the side with a smile. It was also his first time using this kind of cultivation technique, so he was still intoxicated by it. This chessboard. It's indeed powerful. Fang Chang, who was standing at the side, looked at everything before him coldly. If these 3 joined forces, he might not be able to solve it easily. However, this guy trapped the 3 of them in the blink of an eye. If he guessed correctly, it was very likely that these 3 guys would be intoxicated in this chessboard forever and could not come out. While he was somewhat shocked, he had already made up his mind to snatch this white chess piece. However, now was not the time. The 100-person battle had not truly ended yet. In contrast, Fang Yu was still somewhat excited. Now, he was almost certain that this white chess piece was the missing piece of the ancient chessboard. The system's mission was to find this ancient chessboard. It did not take any effort to obtain it. Stop playing. Kill them all. At the same time, another devil's son beside Fang Chang spoke up. Previously, he had already burned his devil blood to deal with Fang Yu. Now, he looked somewhat weak. Therefore, he hated these students of the 4 great academies to the core. He directly walked into the canyon and did not speak any superfluous nonsense. Demonic aura surged in his hand, and he was about to kill Bing Yuxia. Bang! However, before the demonic aura reached Bing Yuxia, Fang Yu had already made his move. A huge sword shadow directly cut the demonic aura. In the next second, a violent fist wind directly blasted into his head. This force was very violent. Fang Yu directly used the 3rd style of heavens, will swimming dragon extinction, 10,000 years imperial pilgrimage. At such a close distance, he could not dodge at all. Moreover, because of burning his devil blood earlier, he had already exhausted more than half of his strength. Therefore, facing this attack, he had no room to resist at all. Splurt! A stream of blood gushed out of his mouth. The moment he fell to the ground, he stopped breathing. Fang Yu. At the same time, Fang Chang had already stepped in. When he saw Fang Yu, he was instantly enraged. This guy actually dared to come? Be careful, this guy is not easy to deal with. Zhang Meng and Tian Kuan had already appeared behind Fang Yu. They still looked at him with fear in their eyes. Haha, you're all here together? Fang Yu stared at the crowd and became slightly vigilant. If these fiend heirs joined forces, they would not be easy to deal with. Furthermore, after a rough estimation, one of the demon heirs had yet to appear. Qin Feng. It was none other than the demon child that he had fought on the first day he entered the severed world. This guy was so eager to hunt down the students of the 4 human academies that he couldn't wait for the first day. According to Bing Yuxia, this fellow had not shown himself since he was heavily injured by the 2 of them. Haha, you're actually still alive. The heavens are helping me. No one is allowed to snatch him from me today. I must kill this guy. Sure enough, after a long while, a mocking voice suddenly came from above the canyon. The owner of the voice was none other than Qin Feng. This guy was obviously a little impatient. The moment he appeared, the aura on his body suddenly rose. His demonic blood boiled. He did not seem to intend to hold back. In the blink of an eye, 4 demon heirs surrounded Feng Yu tightly. In addition, there was the young man holding the white chess piece. There were a total of 5 people, and they were all very powerful. Go to hell. Qin Feng did not allow any explanation. As if he was afraid that the others would steal his credit, he directly punched with both fists. Both fists were filled with the power of demonic qi. Dragon armor. Feng Yu stood in place and did not dodge. He slightly mobilized the rich power in his energy reserve and gathered it on the dragon armor. Bang! Qin Feng's fists accurately bombarded Feng Yu's chest. After a loud bang, Qin Feng flew backward. After a long while, he slowly landed on the ground. However, when he landed, he saw that Feng Yu was still standing in place and did not move. He could not help but be surprised. How is this possible? He was a little confused. That punch just now was a punch with all his strength. The demonic blood boiled, and the power it brought was incomparably violent. Unexpectedly, Feng Yu was not injured. This was simply unbelievable. One had to know that they had fought once before. At that time, Feng Yu fought and retreated, and in the end, he escaped without a fight. At that time, he just thought that Feng Yu was a loser and was flustered and exasperated. At this moment, he did not expect Feng Yu to stop running. Moreover, based on his strength, he did not look like a loser at all. Come at me together. This kid is not ordinary. Feng Chang glared at Feng Yu coldly. Suddenly, he struck out. A huge amount of demonic qi condensed and gathered all over his body. After the demonic qi filled his entire body, he directly attacked Feng Yu. After watching the battle just now, he already knew in his heart. Feng Yu's physical body was very strong. However, the reason why he still chose to attack with his physical body was that he had seen Feng Yu's realm was not ordinary. They had the advantage in numbers, and at the very least, they still had the white chess piece in the disciple's hand. All kinds of moves were exchanged. He did not believe that Feng Yu could be a match for them. Zhang Meng and Tian Kuan stood behind and looked at each other. Then, an extremely violent power erupted from their bodies. The 2 of them had suffered in the immortal demon cave last time, so naturally they also hated Feng Yu. In an instant, 6 fists were exchanged. Feng Yu directly activated the power in his energy reserve and gathered it on his fist. The heavenly will roaming dragon extinction cooperated with the 9 heavens descent. Naturally, a powerful force also erupted from his body. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the world on this side of the canyon began to shake violently. The fist wind collided with the ferocious demonic qi, and the aftermath bombarded this side of the world until it was on the verge of collapse. The earth seemed to be unable to withstand this violent aura and began to tear apart. Feng Yu continuously activated the energy reserve in his body and used the dragon soaring technique. He constantly shuttled between the few of them. Wherever Feng Yu went, he could intimidate the fiend's sons. Even if it was Qin Feng, his cultivation technique was so abnormal. He could continuously improve in battle. At this time, he was already somewhat unable to hold on. Feng Yu's strength was really too strong. Zhang Meng and Tian Kuan were naturally somewhat strained. Only Feng Chang could barely exchange a few blows with Feng Yu. If this continues, we won't be a match for him. Finally, a few hours later, Qin Feng was somewhat unable to hold back. Suddenly, a powerful aura erupted from his body. Chapter 560. After a few hours of scuffling, Qin Feng's strength had already been enhanced. Now, with the help of the boiling demon blood, he became even more terrifying. He dodged to the side and the demon qi around him began to surge. The demon qi came from all directions and did not seem to be the demon qi from his body. The moment all the demon qi gathered, Qin Feng was like a kite that had been released from its string. He charged straight at Feng Yu. A powerful true qi accompanied by devil qi enveloped the entire sky above Feng Yu. At the same time, Feng Chang and the others also strengthened their attack. Their qi continued to condense and each attack was a fatal blow. Feng Yu looked like he was overwhelmed, but in reality, he was still at ease. His fists turned into shadows and blasted out. The moment he pushed Feng Chang back, Feng Yu activated the sea of qi in his body again and condensed all his qi into a long sword. The long sword danced in the wind and the sword will buzzed. It pierced straight into Qin Feng's demon qi. The moment the sword qi touched the black demon qi, it was blocked by a force. Indeed, due to the boiling demon blood, Qin Feng's strength was already very terrifying. Facing Feng Yu's casual attack, he seemed to be able to handle it with ease. However, under the suppression of the cultivation level, Feng Yu's sea of qi continued to surge out. With the support of the source of power, the demon qi that Qin Feng had condensed was dissipating at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not only that, the remaining demon qi was being eroded by Feng Yu's sword qi. His strength was nothing more than the brute force brought about by the boiling demon blood, while Feng Yu's strength came from the endless true qi in his sea of qi. It was obvious who was superior. In just a short while, Qin Feng was already on the verge of collapsing. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. It was obvious that he was having a hard time. "What are you guys just watching for?" After a while, he roared at Feng Chang and the others. Because if this continued, Feng Yu's sword qi would soon devour all of his devil qi, and in the end, devour his entire body. Boom! 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 As soon as Qin Feng finished speaking, Feng Chang and the others attacked again. They originally wanted to take advantage of the situation while Qin Feng was holding Feng Yu back. It was a pity. His speed was still a step too slow. Feng Yu retracted his sword and swung it at Feng Chang and the others. The buzzing sword intent carried an extremely violent aura. With the support of the Dantian's sea of qi, its power was naturally incomparably tyrannical. Even so, Feng Chang and the others turned around and activated the violent demon qi in their bodies, barely dodging the attack. Demon Qi Swamp. After dodging this attack, Zhang Meng and Tian Kun both attacked at the same time. Demonic qi immediately engulfed the area. In an instant, the ground beneath Feng Yu's feet began to be corroded by a wave of demonic qi. Gradually, the devil qi split the land apart. The ground began to soften, and in the next second, a terrifying aura emerged from the ground. Two pairs of ghastly black hands directly broke out of the ground, grabbing at Feng Yu's legs, seemingly wanting to drag Feng Yu's entire person into the ground. The two people's cultivation methods were truly somewhat perverse, to actually launch a sneak attack from underground. Feng Yu did not have time to think too much, turning around abruptly, directly sweeping the sword aura across. The two pairs of black hands seemed to have already sensed the evil aura on the sword aura and immediately withdrew their move. However, the instant they withdrew their claws, the surrounding air suddenly began to turn cold and gloomy. Under Feng Yu's feet, it actually turned into a swamp. The swamp was incomparably soft, even somewhat muddy. Feng Yu only felt that there was an invisible force under his feet, wanting to swallow him inside. Mobilizing the power of the Dantian's sea of qi in his body, Feng Yu directly forcefully stabilized his figure. In the next second, the dragon's soaring art was actually executed, directly leaving this piece of land. When he appeared again, he was already behind Zhang Meng and Tian Kuan, two people. What fast speed! Zhang Meng and Tian Kuan both exclaimed at the same time. Fang Chong did not hesitate. He immediately channeled all the demonic qi into his fists, intending to deal another fatal blow to Fang Yu. However, this time, before he could make a move, he heard a cold voice coming from behind him. "Let me do it." The person who spoke was one of the 3 remaining disciples of the Devil's Son. At this moment, he was holding a white chess piece in his hand, and the chess piece was already shining brightly. In the blink of an eye, the chessboard that had already frozen Bing Yuxia and the others in place once again came alive. On the chessboard, the places where the chess pieces could be placed once again burst forth with a powerful beam of light. Within the beam of light, Fang Yu had already been firmly wrapped up. "Trying to trap me?" Fang Yu snorted coldly, and the sea of qi in his body was once again activated. The power of the sea of qi directly wrapped Fang Yu's entire body tightly, and a kind of light erupted from his body. This light contended with the white chess piece's light. He did not expect Fang Yu to have such a method to resist the binding of the white chess piece's light beam. The young man was somewhat astonished. However, this astonishment only lasted for a moment. In the next second, he directly activated the true qi in his body, and a powerful aura erupted from his body. The surrounding temperature rose again, and there was even a burning sensation. Ignite the devil blood. This guy really doesn't want to live anymore. His attack did not succeed, and he actually imitated the previous Devil Son and ignited the devil blood in his body. The power of the devil blood gushed out crazily, and all of it was exerted on the chess piece. "Keep!" the young man shouted again. Ever since he had obtained this chess piece, he had never failed to execute it. Moreover, he did not believe that Fang Yu was so powerful that even the chessboard could not contain him. He had risked half his life for this attack. Sure enough, after the white chess piece was exerted by the power of the devil blood, it suddenly burst out with a bright light. The places where the chess pieces could be placed spewed out even more powerful beams of light. The power that erupted from within also became more violent. Bang, bang, bang. Accompanied by 3 loud bangs, the light around Fang Yu's body was actually swallowed up bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, it had disappeared. Fang Yu was shocked, and he immediately had a bad feeling about it. As expected, in the next second, without the protection of the light beam, the light that burst out from the places where the chess pieces were placed directly wrapped around his entire body tightly. This power directly swam around Fang Yu's body. "Break!" Fang Yu shouted, trying to mobilize the power in his sea of qi to force this power out of his body. However, at this time, Fang Yu suddenly realized that he could not connect with the power in his sea of qi in his energy center. Moreover, at this time, he had lost control of his body. He could not move at all. Chapter 561. The light beams that burst forth from the places where the pieces could be placed on the chessboard came from who knows where. But the power was incomparably powerful. After this surge of power circulated in Fang Yu's body once, it froze Fang Yu's entire person. Trying several methods, Fang Yu could not flush it out of his body. He could not connect to the sea of qi in his dantian and could not control his body. In fact, he did not even have the chance to execute the cultivation method. At this time, it was even more impossible to mobilize the power in his body, execute the Void Imperial Cannon's second forbidden art, and escape into the 8 desolate secret art. Fang Yu was somewhat regretful in his heart. This time, he played it big. After this thought arose in his mind, in the next second, his vision blurred. The surrounding space twisted and swayed for a while. When he opened his eyes again, Fang Yu already appeared in another space. Here, it was a vast expanse of white everywhere. Where the naked eye could see, there was only a light spot not far away. On the light spot, it was precisely that eternal chessboard that Fang Yu was more familiar with. On the chessboard, 3 pieces were placed. This eternal chessboard was the initial appearance. It was just that it was not considered an endgame yet. Defense was not some chess expert. It was simply impossible to set up this endgame to crack in a short time. If he had that time, he might as well think about how to get out. Done. This chessboard is enough to trap him. It's impossible for him to come out. Ha ha. There are already not many people left in the human race. At the same time, in the outside world, Fang Chong and the rest laughed wildly. This net already captured the few heavenly glue of the human race's 4 great academies in one fell swoop. The remaining few people, the strongest, were merely Holy Spirit's Sun Mo Ling and Lai Ching. As long as these 2 people were dealt with, then this 100-people battle would be considered over. And their fiend race would also obtain victory in the end. As long as this eternal chessboard was in their hands, they did not even need to make a move personally and could suppress the remaining prodigies one by one. The original plan was just to deal with a few more outstanding students, giving the human race's 4 great academies people some warning, even provocation. But now, he had exceeded the quota. All the students from the 4 great academies who had come to participate in the 100-man battle were buried here. Although the demons also paid a considerable price, this price was clearly worth it. The human race had been bullying the devil race for far too long. This time, he could vent his anger. What the hell is that? Above the canyon, another graceful figure appeared. She stood above with a grave expression. Even Fang Yu could not escape from it, which showed how powerful that chess piece was. Xing Lingzi and Lai Feng stood at their spots, watching. They didn't rush into this battle. By now, the students of the 4 human academies had all been exhausted. Fang Yu and the others were also trapped. At this time, if they were to act rashly, it was very likely that they would accelerate the time of this 100-people battle. Below, there were several devil heirs working together. They were not easy to deal with in the first place. Not to mention, there was also a hidden guy. The pawns in this guy's hands were too terrifying. That chessboard moved. Just as the 2 people stopped to watch, that place where Fang Yu had originally already fixed, suddenly started shaking slightly. What's going on? It's impossible. Those who were even more shocked than the 2 of them were Fang Chong and the other few devil heirs. They clearly already had victory in their grasp and saw the edge of victory. But now, the chessboard actually seemed like it was going to collapse, starting to sway. The first and second time were still considered weak. The third time, the entire space on this side of the canyon started shaking violently. The extent of this shaking was seriously too great. It was hard for them not to discover it even if they wanted to. Inside the enchantment, Fang Yu withdrew his power. In that instant just now, he seemed to have felt the Sin Throne's power. That faintly discernible power was very weak, seemingly unwilling to communicate with Fang Yu too, like it was thinking on its own. At this time, Fang Yu was unable to mobilize the power of the Qi Si in his dantian to condense the Sin Throne. He could only let it stir up on its own. As expected, a moment later, this power suddenly strengthened. The power that originally came from the Sin Throne actually started to break free from Fang Yu's control and condensed on its own. The moment it condensed, the enchantment on this side of the space began to become unstable, shaking slightly a few times. The Sin Throne seemed to have sensed something, and its figure began to rapidly expand. The black shadow continued to enlarge, shrouding the entire space in a vast expanse of white. Not only that, but a tyrannical aura also erupted from the Sin Throne's body. This aura was very powerful. It seemed to be talking, but also seemed to be complaining, as if it was unwilling to be trapped in this narrow space. This side of the space was not like the 8 desolate arcane land, which could be infinitely expanded and contracted. Just like the space in the immortal demon grotto, it was a fixed-size space. However, this side of the space paled in comparison to the immortal demon grotto. In the blink of an eye, the Sin Throne's entire body had completely enveloped this side of the space. Not only that, but the tyrannical aura emitted from its body seemed to want to completely tear this side of the space apart. Boom, boom, boom. This side of the space began to shake violently. It was as if the earth was quaking and the mountains were swaying. A moment later, this side of the space began to distort. As the Sin Throne's aura continued to expand, the distortion of this side of the space became even more intense. Bang, bang, bang! Another 3 muffled sounds rang out, and this side of the space began to crack. Accompanied by the Sin Throne's aura, this side of the space was clearly fragmented. Boom! Sure enough, a moment later, this side of the space was directly torn into pieces of white. In an instant, these pieces turned into nothingness. The spot of light that had originally appeared in front of Fang Yu, which was the chessboard, actually directly collapsed at this time, turning into fine powder that scattered all over the ground. The chessboard was broken. To be more precise, the chessboard formed by the white chess piece was broken. Of course, it was not broken through the chessboard, but by the Sin Throne's powerful body. This side of the space was ultimately too small to accommodate a big Buddha like the Sin Throne. Just like that, the space within the boundary was torn apart, and this side of the world began to shake violently. When he opened his eyes again, the chessboard under Fang Yu's feet had disappeared. The place where the chess piece had landed had obviously turned into an ordinary piece of ground. This is impossible. The young man holding the white chess piece was dumbfounded. He looked at everything in front of him in disbelief. Fang Yu had broken his chessboard. A mouthful of blood directly spurted out from his mouth. Chapter 562. The chessboard had already fused with his body. The moment the chessboard shattered, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground, dead. At the same time, Bing Yuxia and the others instantly woke up from the chessboard. The moment they opened their eyes, they were somewhat confused. After being surrounded by the white pillar of light, they lost consciousness. It was as if they were intoxicated in a chessboard, unable to make a move and unable to extricate themselves for a long time. Now that they had woken up, they still did not understand the situation. Only Fang Yu knew in his heart that if the Sin Throne had not forcefully broken through this space, they would have been trapped forever. They would have remained in the chessboard forever, unable to extricate themselves for a long time. The chessboard had been broken, and the young man holding the white chess piece had also fallen to the ground, dead. The moment his aura disappeared, the white chess piece suddenly burst out with a dazzling light. When the light dissipated, the white chess piece actually transformed into an illusion. The illusion seemed to have been summoned by something. Or it could be said that a powerful force was attracting the chess piece. Fang Yu also felt the same strange feeling. In his mind, an eternal chessboard was rapidly revolving. As it revolved, it vaguely emitted a powerful force that directly scattered toward the illusion of the white chess piece. The illusion of the white chess piece seemed to have been summoned by this force. A moment later, the chess piece flew out and fell into Fang Yu's head in front of everyone's eyes. What's going on? Everyone looked at the scene in front of them in puzzlement. Clearly, they did not know about the eternal chessboard. They also did not know that such a powerful chess piece was actually a lowly chess piece in the eternal chessboard. The truly powerful chess piece was the entire eternal chessboard. How did this guy escape from the chessboard? Didn't they say that no one could break the chessboard? How did he break it? The two demon heirs, Qin Feng and Fang Chang, were speechless. They were about to go berserk. The situation was originally set, but they did not expect that the situation would be reversed. Not only did Fang Yu break the chessboard, but he also swallowed the white chess piece that they had been longing for. If the dead demon heirs knew about this, they would definitely be angered to death. A small chess game. Fang Yu shook his head, his eyes solemn. He tried to communicate with the sea of qi in his dantian, and he could already sense it. And at this moment, all the cultivation techniques were no longer restricted. Fortunately, the Sin throne had disappeared the moment it broke the chessboard. Otherwise, Fang Chong and the others would have dropped their jaws in shock. Since the Sin throne had not been exposed, Fang Yu naturally did not reveal his strength. He had a lot of trump cards now, but he had to keep them well hidden. He wouldn't use them again unless he had no other choice. Otherwise, if everyone knew about his strength, it would also attract trouble. Of course, the advantage of concealing one's strength was to make one's enemy blindly arrogant. Just like Fang Chong and the other devil heirs. If they knew Fang Yu's strength, they definitely wouldn't have shown themselves. It was precisely because Fang Yu had concealed his strength that they dared to appear. Only after all of them had appeared would this battle finally come to an end. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining an ancient chess game remnant. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the system mission. The system reward has been issued. System reward. Comprehension technique. A series of system notifications sounded. Fang Yu had long been prepared. In his mind, a huge nebula map began to slowly revolve. On the nebula map, two strange auras lingered around each other, coexisting. These two strange auras fused together, forming a profound meaning that seemed to come from heaven and earth. The land was open and everywhere was barren. The heavenly Tao began to gradually reveal itself in the mortal world. Under the heavenly Tao, more and more species began to reproduce. Finally, with the recovery of spiritual energy, many living beings embarked on the path of cultivation. Under the heavenly Tao was the earthly Tao. Above the earthly Tao, the Holy Spirit restrained each other. After reproducing for millions of years, there were constantly people breaking through layers of shackles and reaching extremely powerful cultivation. In fact, Fang Yu could sense that some of the auras had already surpassed the martial emperor level. True immortal. This was the aura of a true immortal. Fang Yu could not comprehend this realm at all. After all, this aura was simply too powerful. The two auras continued to twist, and the nebula map began to gradually reveal itself. In the nebula map, there seemed to be an incomparably violent power circulating. Fang Yu had a feeling that once he obtained this power, even a martial emperor would not be a match for him. The nebula map revolved very quickly, and Fang Yu saw many galaxies on it. Most of the galaxies were similar to the heavenly blue planet. There were martial artists as well as other creatures. However, these things were all illusory in Fang Yu's eyes. He could not see them clearly at all. In just an instant, the power brought by the nebula map completely shocked Fang Yu. That feeling was suffocating. In front of the nebula map, Fang Yu could feel how small he was. Not only him, but even a martial emperor was just a drop in the ocean. The power in the nebula map was simply too strange. Fang Yu did not dare to pry into it anymore. He was afraid that he would be sucked into it and devoured by that terrifying power. That kind of power was not only suffocating, but also frightening. The majestic nebula map only revolved once before it disappeared. It was replaced by the chessboard. The chessboard quietly revolved in Fang Yu's mind. It did not seem to be any different. However, Fang Yu could clearly feel that this chessboard was not just an ordinary chessboard. The nebula map that he saw earlier could not be an illusion. The chessboard was still slowly revolving. Fang Yu did not have the time to understand it. Feeling the mysteries of the chessboard, Fang Yu tried to control the movement of the chessboard. That faintly discernible power began to move around the chessboard. The entire chessboard began to come alive, and the chess pieces on it began to glow. After a while, the light on the chessboard shone brightly. The light on the chessboard had completely submerged the defensive mind. Let's attack together. We can't let him leave here alive. What are you waiting for? Qin Feng and Feng Chang had already noticed that something was wrong. This Feng Yu was simply too powerful. It could even be said that he was somewhat demonic. If they allowed him to continue developing like this, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even if they could walk out of this exiled place alive today, Feng Yu would definitely become a huge hidden danger for the demon race in the future. The heaven-confining demon emperor had gone to great lengths to organize this 100-man battle in order to remove this hidden danger. Chapter 563. Among the students of the 4 great academies, there were too many prodigies. If they did not take advantage of this opportunity to suppress their strength, then in the future or even in the future, the human race would still surpass the demon race. They did not want this situation to continue, so they could only take action now. No human powerhouse would be able to walk out of this exiled grounds alive in this battle. Make your move! Not far away, above the canyon, the Holy Spirit child was a little anxious as he watched the few demon heirs surround Feng Yu and the others. Just as he was about to make a move, Lai Yang had already reached out to stop him. Wait. She waved her hand and looked at Feng Yu's figure in her eyes, seeming to be somewhat confident. She had an illusion that Feng Yu would definitely be able to defeat these few demon heirs. Moreover, he would not suffer any losses. What's more, Bing Yuxia and the others were holding down the fort below. Even if they were not a match, nothing would happen. Others might not understand, but Lai Yang understood Feng Yu's character more. Without absolute confidence, he would definitely not act rashly. The chessboard's power is indeed somewhat powerful. Feng Yu sneered. Since you all like the chessboard so much, then give it a try. In an instant, a white circle of light flew out from his hand. A moment later, the white circle of light directly turned into an incomparably huge chessboard in midair. The entire chessboard was imposing and rather huge. When the chessboard enveloped everyone, the 2 intersecting dots of black and white began to distort rapidly. These dots of light were the energy contained in the chessboard. This energy contained the power of heaven and earth. Faintly, it also contained some of the laws of heaven and earth. When these energies were completely condensed together, a huge chessboard appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The chessboard's momentum did not diminish, and its momentum was monstrous. Especially after the 2 energies intersected, they circulated like stars. The moment it appeared, this powerful aura had already shocked everyone present. Profound. In the next second, Feng Yu's voice was like a great Buddha, resounding in everyone's ears. In an instant, the entire chessboard lit up. From top to bottom, a pillar of light filled with the power of stars enveloped everyone. The energy brought about by this light pillar was incomparably strong. Mixed with incomparably violent star energy, it enveloped everyone's heads like a blazing sun, causing everyone to be unable to raise their head. In fact, the power brought about by this pillar of light also had a sense of oppression. It made people's hearts tremble, and at the same time, they did not dare to look directly at it. When the pillar of light enveloped everyone, a powerful force burst forth from his body. This kind of power, this kind of monstrous aura, this kind of shocking feeling, was far from what the demon sun disciple with the white chess piece could compare with. In comparison, his strength paled in comparison to that of a great sorcerer. This was the true power of the ancient Go puzzle. After the light pillar enveloped the few devil heirs, Feng Yu's mind moved. Space began to distort. In this distorted space, a huge chessboard appeared. The power of the chessboard shocked everyone. The chessboard started moving slowly, pulling Feng Chang and the other devil heirs into it. After a while, the distorted space began to return to normal. When the space calmed down, the fiend's sun was nowhere to be seen. They had already fallen into the chessboard. The ancient chessboard had trapped all of them inside. If they could not solve this ancient Go puzzle, they would end up staying inside forever, unable to extricate themselves. After the ancient Go puzzle's chessboard completely disappeared, there was still a kind of powerful force drifting around in this world. This was the remaining power of the chessboard. The power swam around frenziedly and did not dissipate for a long time. The Fiend Race's people were directly captured by Feng Yu in one fell swoop. The reason why he did not deal a killing blow was not because Feng Yu was kind-hearted. Inside that ancient Go puzzle, it was equivalent to a land of death. It was simply impossible for them to come out again. Rather than letting them die a quick death, why not immerse themselves in that chessboard forever? Presumably, in this world, there should be nothing more painful than this, right? Of course, all of this was just a warning that Feng Yu gave to the Fiend Race. The human race's 4 great academies were not to be trifled with. They were not what they could easily provoke. On the other hand, Feng Yu also did it in order to complete the mission issued by the system this time. Obtain the final victory in the 100-person battle and obtain a place in the top 3. Now, the Fiend Race had all fallen, leaving only 2 Fiend Race disciples still standing in place, trembling. Victory and defeat had already been decided. As for the top 3, the rest were the students of the human race's 4 great academies. Feng Yu did not want to compete anymore. Presumably, at this time, none of them wanted to come out and challenge Feng Yu. After all, the shock brought about by the ancient Go puzzle was really too terrifying. Now that the dust had settled, Feng Yu sighed softly. After resting for a while, everyone walked towards a canyon. That was the entrance to the severed place. At the entrance to the severed place, the space had already begun to slowly distort. This also proved that the 100-person battle was over. After a moment of distortion, an exit appeared in front of everyone. After everyone walked out of the exit, Feng Yu also lifted his leg and stepped inside. He originally wanted to make a trip to the Spirit Beast race again. After all, it was thanks to the Spirit Beast race's deity that he was able to obtain the opportunity in the Immortal Demon Grotto this time. However, it was really strange that deity did not obtain any benefits. Presumably, the Spirit Beast race was not feeling well now. There was also the matter of the Magical Beast race. Previously, they had gathered in the dense forest, and he did not know what exactly they wanted to do. However, their patriarch, the Ox Demon, was already gone, so they obviously could not cause any big waves. Feng Yu did not want to interfere too much with the matters of the severed place. Everything here would be left to the local natives to deal with themselves. Stepping out, when Feng Yu appeared at the entrance again, the surroundings were already surrounded by many people. Looking around, Wu Wu, Bing Yuxia, and the others had already been brought back by people from their respective academies. Lai Yan stood to the side, quietly waiting for Feng Yu to come out. "It looks like you obtained a lot of opportunities inside." Lai Yan raised an eyebrow, and a smile appeared on his face. "You're not bad either." Feng Yu nodded. He could clearly see that Lai Yan's strength had increased by a lot. The aura on his body was very strong. It seemed that Lai Yan had obtained a lot of benefits in the severed place these past few days. It was no wonder that Feng Yu had not seen Lai Yan's figure during his activities in the severed place. The students of each academy counted the number of people, and in the end, the Azure Dragon Academy had the least losses, with only 3 students not coming out. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.